Chapter 1005. With the success of the first attempt, the rest would be easy to handle. Wang Sheng was not so greedy that he had to complete the same cycle as the old Taoist right away. Such a cycle of 3 small weekday was already a pleasant surprise for Wang Sheng. Previously, he was still worried about what kind of cultivation method he needed to fuse at this time to meet the needs of so many acupoints. In the end, old Taoist Ling Su came up with the concept of integrating the endless cycle of yin and yang of Tai Chi. It was really timely. It was not better to integrate more acupoints, nor was it better to integrate more complicated ones. On the contrary, the simpler and purer it was, the purer the aura would be. Previously, Wang Sheng did not want to waste so many of his acupoints, so he integrated the mind of calmness cultivation method. Now that the first stage of the mind of calmness cultivation method was completed, Wang Sheng could actually give up on the second stage. When he really reached the level of the old Taoist Ling Su, he could cultivate the second stage of the mind of calmness cultivation method to the extreme in a short period of time. There was no need to waste acupoints in the usual process of cultivation. As for Wang Sheng needing to keep his mind clear at all times, wasn't it because of the mantra of 9 words, confrontation? When all 5 words were used together, the effect was much better. The second round of complete cultivation was completed in a weekday, and there were no other obstacles. It was completed naturally. After a weekday of cultivation was completed, a stream of extremely pure spiritual energy quickly filled all of Wang Sheng's acupoints. Even Wang Sheng could not believe it. The old Taoist's method worked. It was the most suitable method for the old Taoist. However, the old Taoist did not expect Wang Sheng to have so many acupoints that he could complete 3 small weekday of cultivation in one go. The spiritual energy from the first acupoint should have been dispersed to all the acupoints after a small weekday of condensation and compression. However, it did not. Instead, it was followed by the second small weekday of condensation and purification. After the second round, it was time for the third round. After 3 rounds of purification, even if the last 2 rounds were only half as effective as the first 2 rounds, the overall effect was still 175%. Not to mention, it was still more than that. The effect of Wang Sheng's cultivation for a week and day almost made the spiritual energy condensed and compressed by 2 times. Just this alone made Wang Sheng's cultivation efficiency many times higher than others. The effect of purification was not necessarily several times purer than the first time. After the first purification and condensation, almost all the impurities had been removed. The second purification was completely condensed, and by the third purification, the effect of this condensation was completely displayed to the extreme. If an ordinary expert wanted to achieve this level of purity, it would take at least 10 days to half a month of cultivation. As for Wang Sheng, he only needed 3 minutes at most. He could easily finish it in a week and day. Now, even Wang Sheng was looking forward to it. When he entered the legendary realm and reached 512 apertures, he would be able to purify 6 times at a time. What would that feel like? Perhaps even the old Taoist Ling Su would have to admit defeat by then. After successfully completing a week and day of cultivation, Wang Sheng stopped. After resting for a while and feeling himself for a while, he then continued. When he started cultivating again, Wang Sheng directly aimed for 9 complete week and day of cultivation. He couldn't be compared to the old Taoist. The old Taoist cultivated 129 times in a complete week and day. Wang Sheng was far inferior. After about half an hour, the 9 week and day of cultivation was completed. Wang Sheng let a long breath. He felt that his apertures were slowly filled with this level of pure spiritual energy. It was incomparably pleasant. Speaking of which, this time, Wang Sheng had completed the black venomous snake transformation. Moreover, he had exceeded the requirements to upgrade the black venomous snake transformation. However, Wang Sheng didn't know the specific benefits that Wang had brought him. Perhaps it just hadn't appeared yet. Wang Sheng knew that there would definitely be additional benefits, and it wouldn't be just this little. Perhaps it would be a surprise. Wang Sheng was waiting for it. Wang Sheng stopped cultivating. As soon as he opened his eyes, he heard the old Taoist Ling Su's surprised voice. "Why is your aura like this?" Even if the old Taoist cultivated 129 small weeks for a complete week and day, it would still be faster than Wang Sheng's 3 week and day of cultivation. Therefore, the old Taoist woke up before Wang Sheng. In just a short while, Wang Sheng's aura attracted the attention of the old Taoist. Wang Sheng's cultivation appeared to be normal. In fact, the cultivation method gave old Taoist a very familiar feeling. It was clearly the purest Taoist sutra cultivation method. However, it was slightly different from ordinary Taoist sutra cultivation methods. Soon, the old Taoist discovered that the purity of the spiritual energy was on a completely different level. The effect of Wang Sheng's casual cultivation was almost comparable to the effect of the old Taoist's own cultivation. The problem was that the old Taoist had already worked hard on the Taoist Heart Sutra for more than 100 years. It had not been more than 3 years since Wang Sheng came into contact with the Taoist Heart Sutra. However, the effect of Wang Sheng's cultivation was even purer than that of the old Taoist who had been cultivating for decades. "How is this possible? I'm a genius," Wang Sheng laughed. However, he did not know how to explain it to the old Taoist Ling Su. Could he tell the truth to the old Taoist that he already had 256 acupuncture points? In a flash, Wang Sheng had already thought of a good idea. He blurted out, "Maybe it has something to do with advancing here. When I cultivate, the spiritual energy will be refined to a very pure level." The old Taoist nodded. This was probably the only reason. Should he also try to advance here? Unfortunately, the old Taoist knew that with his current cultivation, if he wanted to advance, he would probably need a huge opportunity. Otherwise, he would be stuck at this level. Involuntarily, the old Taoist's thoughts turned to Wang Sheng's long sword. If he could successfully comprehend the aura on the long sword, he might have a chance to reach the next realm. Who knows, he might go crazy here. He just didn't know how crazy it would be to refine the body with spiritual energy triggered by 12-stage expert. The old Taoist immediately spoke his mind and asked Wang Sheng for his opinion. "Old Taoist, are you serious?" Wang Sheng's expression was very interesting. He directly asked the old Taoist Ling Su. A 12-stage expert's advancement could probably awaken all the super demonic beasts in the entire grounds of Thousand Despair, right? The old Taoist Ling Su nodded heavily, not hiding his true thoughts. Wang Sheng gave the old Taoist Ling Su a big thumbs up. He smiled at the old Taoist and said, "No problem. When you feel that it's about time, we'll come in together. We'll let those people see what a top expert's aura is." At the thought of all the sealed, super demonic beasts awakening and all the arrays being activated, Wang Sheng couldn't help but look forward to the scene of a huge change in the inner circle of the grounds of Thousand Despair. They'll be scared to death. Chapter 1006. Wang Sheng was not trying to scare them. If all the super demonic beasts were to be released when there were countless experts in the core area of the grounds of despair, it would indeed scare everyone. The old Taoist was also interested when he heard that. He added with a smile, "Okay, I'll scare them to death. Old Taoist, you stay here and rest tomorrow. I'll go up and take a look." After joking for a while, Wang Sheng reminded the old Taoist, "That beast is very alert. I'll be a small target if I go up alone." "All right." The old Taoist knew his own strength. If he was asked to kill the demonic beast, the old Taoist would be 100 times more competent than Wang Sheng. However, if he wanted to control it, Wang Sheng was much better than the old Taoist. The old Taoist was not like other experts who thought that they were omnipotent just because they had some achievements. It was important to know one's own limits. The old Taoist was better than anyone else in this aspect. If you can do it, then do it. If you can't, then retreat. The old Taoist promised Wang Sheng that he would not go up. He immediately reminded Wang Sheng, "Don't get thrown down from a high altitude. No one will be able to save you if you get thrown down." "I know." Wang Sheng nodded. At this point, the two of them did not say anything else. After eating some thick porridge at night, they both cultivated and rested. The next morning, Wang Sheng left the igloo alone and drove the sleigh straight to the iceberg that had already been explored. This iceberg was one of the tallest icebergs in the core area of the Grounds of Despair. This was probably the reason why the snow carving chose to build its nest here. Putting away the sleigh, Wang Sheng looked at the snowy mountain that was at least 1,000 meters high and began to prepare his equipment. If ordinary experts had to climb this iceberg, they would probably rely on their strong cultivation to climb it. At most, they would use their own weapons to borrow strength. It cannot be helped. This was the limitation of people nowadays. They had never thought of making professional climbing equipment. Wang Sheng was different. He was a special ace who had undergone professional training. Wang Sheng had tried almost all kinds of complicated terrains. This kind of iceberg climbing mission required professional equipment. Ice axes, ice claws, and spike shoes were all normal equipment. When necessary, Wang Sheng would even use protective ropes. Perhaps some experts in this world would think that Wang Sheng was making a fuss and was losing face. But for Wang Sheng, completing the mission was the most important thing. Using tools was normal. These tools were made together with the construction of a sleigh. Knowing that they were going to enter a world of ice and snow, Wang Sheng must have prepared all of these things at once. After putting on the equipment, Wang Sheng put on his goggles and gloves. He walked to the foot of the iceberg, waved the ice axe, and began to slowly climb up the iceberg with the help of his arms. The iceberg was almost perfectly conical. It could be said that there was no place for him to borrow strength from. He could only rely on the ice axe and the ice claws to exert strength on the ice. For the current Wang Sheng, this was not a difficult task. His immense strength allowed him to easily bring his body up to a height of about 100 meters. Only Wang Sheng's body would not cause any problems when he touched the iceberg. If it were any other expert who could enter this place, the iceberg would melt and release the super monster inside as soon as they touched it. This was also the reason why Wang Sheng did not let old Taoist Ling Su come up. If the old Taoist touched it, there would be no need to think about anything else. Once the iceberg melted, the snow carving would definitely move to another place. Climbing was normal at first, but when he was about 500 meters from the mountainside, Wang Sheng realized that something was wrong. The air at this height was shockingly thin. He did not know if it was because all the spiritual energy had been attracted to the area below, but the spiritual energy at this position was shockingly thin. So much so that Wang Sheng only climbed a few steps before he felt that something was wrong with his breathing. On Earth, Wang Sheng had once tried to fight on a plateau. The air here was almost as thin as the air at an altitude of 7,000 meters on Mount Everest. Realizing this problem, he did not dare to delay and immediately used the 5-word formula on himself. The spiritual energy here was even thinner than outside the land of 1,000 devastations. The sudden drop in concentration was simply the best cause of decompression sickness. Wang Sheng could not afford to make such a mistake. Very soon, Wang Sheng found that the situation stabilized after he used the 5-word formula. As long as he used it once in a while, the symptoms of decompression sickness would not appear. The strength of his body was enough for Wang Sheng to climb steadily without the assistance of spiritual energy. As for the thin air, Wang Sheng only needed to adapt for a while before he no longer had to worry. That was because Wang Sheng suddenly found that his lung capacity seemed to have greatly increased. It was not simply lung capacity. After all, the volume of the lungs was limited, and no matter how big it was, it could not break through to a certain extent. However, Wang Sheng could be sure that the ability of his lungs to absorb oxygen was definitely much stronger than before. If this was underwater, one deep breath of Wang Sheng could last for 20 minutes. Wang Sheng had already understood that this was probably the bonus that the Pogo Viper transformation had given him. The Pogo Viper liked water, which increased the ability to absorb and store oxygen. This was the prerequisite for playing in water. With this ability, in addition to the air cylinder that Wang Sheng carried, he would definitely be able to sweep through the water. This powerful ability allowed Wang Sheng to move freely in places where the air was thin. Even without the use of compressed air, Wang Sheng could move freely. If there was any real impact, it was only the sudden thinning of the air in the first 10 minutes that he needed to adapt to. Wielding the ice axe, Wang Sheng continued to climb, his speed not decreasing at all. The higher he went, the thinner the air and spiritual energy became. However, Wang Sheng was not affected at all and only focused on climbing. The 1,000-meter-tall iceberg was not that tall. However, Wang Sheng still spent 2 hours climbing it in a straight line. He only rested once in the process. If the mountaineers on Earth were to see this, their jaws would definitely drop. The top of the iceberg was not pointed but flat. Now, the top of the iceberg was occupied by a huge eagle's nest. Wang Sheng was already mentally prepared for this, so he was not surprised to see the huge eagle's nest. Snow carving was not there at the moment, and he did not know where he went to look for food. Wang Sheng easily climbed into the eagle's nest. The bottom of the eagle's nest was supported by a piece of wood that was as thick as Wang Sheng's thigh. It was frozen solid in the iceberg. The inside was filled with many soft and tough vines, and the top was filled with many soft twigs. There were also many demon beast fur and various feathers, which looked very warm. There was enough space for Wang Sheng to hide in the wood below the eagle's nest. Wang Sheng comfortably hid inside, and then quietly waited for snow carving to return to the nest. After waiting for more than an hour, the figure of snow carving appeared in Wang Sheng's sensing range. It had returned. Chapter 1007. From afar, Wang Sheng had activated the golden cloud pattern in his soul space. This allowed Wang Sheng's presence to disappear from the senses of a 12th degree expert like old Taoist Ling Su. He believed that snow carving would not be able to sense it as well. Wang Sheng himself was hiding in the gaps of the wood under snow carving's nest. Snow carving should not have checked the bottom of its nest carefully every time it returned to its nest. In the nest, there were no eggs of snow carving, and looking at the size of the nest, it seemed that only one snow carving could sleep in it. It must be said that snow carving size was big enough. When snow carving flew back, it was holding a demonic beast that was even bigger than Wang Sheng in its claws. One look, and one could tell that it was from the outer area of the place of 1,000 extremes and was not very strong. This scene made Wang Sheng even more interested in snow carving's forging range. It was not just limited to the core area of the place of 1,000 extremes. Interesting. Landing steadily in the nest, snow carving looked around vigilantly and began to enjoy its prey. The prey had long been grabbed to death by snow carving's strong claws. It did not move at all, allowing snow carving to tear it apart. Wang Sheng did not jump out at this time to let snow carving discover him. This was because Wang Sheng knew that wild beasts had the instinct to protect their food. If he jumped out at this time, even if it was his own kind, he might be treated as an enemy who wanted to snatch his food and fight with it. Wang Sheng did not want to fight with snow carving at such a high place. He did not want to die either. Hence, he obediently hid at the bottom of the nest and sensed snow carving's movements, waiting for snow carving to finish enjoying its food. Wang Sheng waited until snow carving finished eating the prey that was relatively small for its body size. Then, he grabbed the wood at the edge of the nest and flipped into the nest. Snow carving's instincts as a monstrous beast allowed him to instantly sense Wang Sheng's presence. However, the person in front of him gave snow carving a very intimate feeling. Snow carving stood in the middle of its lair, curiously looking at Wang Sheng, who had suddenly appeared in its lair. Facing this snow carving, whose head was almost the same height as Wang Sheng. It would be a lie if Wang Sheng said he was not nervous. This guy could swallow Wang Sheng whole with a single bite. Tearing apart the prey just now could already be considered as a meticulous cooking. Using the 5-word formulas together, and with the help of the battle consciousness minion, Wang Sheng finally saw the curiosity in snow carving's eyes slowly turn into intimacy. Only now did Wang Sheng let out a long sigh of relief. Although snow carving had not shown any hostility, a monstrous beast of this level was probably extremely intelligent. It would not be easy to control it. For the time being, the progress was very smooth. There were no mistakes, which was a good sign. Wang Sheng slowly walked forward, trying to get closer to snow carving. Snow carving raised its proud head. Wang Sheng could completely see the pride in its eyes. Continuing to walk forward a few steps, Wang Sheng got closer to snow carving. Then he slowly stretched out his hand to let it see, slowly approaching its body. Wang Sheng was not short, but in front of snow carving, he was just a tiny dot. Although Wang Sheng said he wanted to touch its body, he was actually just touching its feathers. Slowly stretching his hand forward, Wang Sheng finally touched snow carving's feathers. Snow carving did not have any reaction. It just lowered its head and looked at Wang Sheng curiously. Very good. Allowing himself to touch, it was a sign of further intimacy. Wang Sheng was pleasantly surprised. As long as this kind of intimacy was allowed, Wang Sheng would be able to ride snow carving sooner or later. Suddenly, snow carving lowered its head and pushed Wang Sheng away with its long, curved beak. It seemed that it did not like Wang Sheng's touch and pushed him away. However, from the beginning to the end, snow carving only pushed Wang Sheng away and did not attack him. Just now, when a long beak suddenly appeared beside him, Wang Sheng was also shocked. Fortunately, Wang Sheng's mental strength was extremely strong, so he could keep standing still and did not disturb snow carving. Both the feathers and the long beak gave Wang Sheng a different feeling. The feathers felt very tough, and even the edges of the feathers were slightly sharp. Only such tough feathers could support such a huge and heavy body of snow carving. As for the long beak, it felt like a weapon, hard and sharp. Wang Sheng had no doubt that snow carving could kill him easily. This snow carving's cultivation was definitely higher than Wang Sheng's, and it might even be higher than the peak of the legendary realm. Wang Sheng already had a preconceived experience of controlling the giant bear in the inner circle, and thought that he could control snow carving like he did with the giant bear. Now, it seemed that it was not that easy. At first, he had 90% confidence, but now, Wang Sheng did not even have 60% confidence. However, if he could make snow carving not hostile to him, it would be a victory. At least, it was a good start, wasn't it? Wang Sheng did not try to feed snow carving with the meat of the demonic beast, which was a low-level method. He still maintained the silent infection of the 5-word formula, making snow carving feel more and more intimate with him. 10 minutes later, Wang Sheng approached snow carving again and touched the feathers of snow carving again. This time, snow carving did not use its long beak to push Wang Sheng away, but let Wang Sheng touch its feathers. There's a chance. Wang Sheng was happy, but he did not dare to relax his vigilance at all. Slowly and forcefully, he pressed the body under snow carving's feathers and touched several places at the same time. Snow carving allowed Wang Sheng to do it and did not resist. Feeling that the intimacy level was enough, Wang Sheng leaned back and tried to send a command to snow carving through the 5-word formula, asking it to lower its head. Snow carving was a little resistant, and its 2 big eyes widened with curiosity, as if it did not understand why it had to lower its head to be intimate with this little guy. After Wang Sheng tried for 5 minutes, snow carving finally lowered its head, and its head was at the same level as Wang Sheng's. It used a very gentle movement to nudge Wang Sheng's body. At this point, Wang Sheng's confidence had increased to 80%. He tried to reach out his hand to snow carving's long beak, and even touched snow carving's head and leaned his body on snow carving's head. Snow carving did not refuse. Next, Wang Sheng gave snow carving an instruction, and he wanted to ride on its body. Snow carving did not resist and still lay down, not standing up. Is this consent? Wang Sheng seemed to see a strange light in snow carving's eyes. But since snow carving did not directly kill him, Wang Sheng chose to believe in snow carving. Using the 5-word formula and the powerful assistance of the small person, he communicated with snow carving for 10 minutes. When Wang Sheng felt that the problem was not too big, he grabbed snow carving's feathers and jumped on his snow carving's broad back. The huge snow carving also stood up at this time and let out a long roar towards the sky. It carried Wang Sheng forward a few steps to the edge of the nest, and with a flap of its wings, it soared into the sky. Chapter 1008. Wang Sheng had already firmly grasped onto the 2 huge feathers on snow carving's back. His body followed snow carving's flapping wings as he flew up into the air. At that moment, Wang Sheng felt like he was taking off on a fighter jet on Earth. Furthermore, it was the feeling of ejecting from an aircraft carrier. It was simply nostalgic. However, what made Wang Sheng feel a little uneasy was that this wasn't the flight path that Wang Sheng had been expecting. Snow carving was completely in control of it. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Snow carving flapped its wings a few times, and the man and the eagle were like arrows released from a bow, shooting straight into the sky. According to Wang Sheng's calculations, snow carving had risen at least 2,000 meters in just a short period of time. At this distance, the air was getting thinner and thinner, but Wang Sheng was still able to withstand it. After taking a few deep breaths, he quickly adapted to it. The strengthening effect of the black serpent transformation on Wang Sheng was far beyond Wang Sheng's expectations. Although it was only 3,000 meters, Wang Sheng knew that the air in this area was abnormally thin due to the fact that they were in the sky above the core area of the land of 1,000 extremities. At this height, the air was almost comparable to the air at the top of Mount Everest on Earth. The surrounding spiritual qi was so thin that it was almost non-existent. Wang Sheng could only rely on his own physical strength to hold onto the two long feathers and stabilize himself on snow carving's back. Only then was he able to fly at high speed together with snow carving. Otherwise, he would have been thrown off long ago. If he had known that this would happen, he would have used some tools to stabilize himself on snow carving's back from the beginning. Who knew that snow carving would be so friendly in the nest, but after flying together, it would immediately ignore Wang Sheng's orders. Now, Wang Sheng seemed to understand why snow carving's eyes flashed before. If snow carving was not a monster, but a person, then snow carving's eyes were clearly filled with ridicule. Unfortunately, Wang Sheng didn't realize it when he was in the nest, and now it was a little too late. Other than grabbing tightly onto the snow carving's long feathers, Wang Sheng had no other choice but to use the 5-word formula to try and influence the snow carving's flight. At an altitude of 3,000 meters, snow carving glided in a circle for a while. Suddenly, it folded its wings and dived towards the ground. The sudden sense of weightlessness made Wang Sheng relive the feeling of parachuting in a fighter jet. Seeing that the ground was getting closer and closer, Wang Sheng held onto the two long feathers tightly and didn't let go. His body was as close as possible to snow carving's back, and he still didn't give up on communicating with snow carving. If an ordinary person hadn't gone through high-altitude training or had acrophobia, this would have directly taken half their lives. Fortunately, Wang Sheng's nerves were strong enough, so no accidents happened. Boom! Suddenly, Wang Sheng felt a torrent of spiritual energy. Snow carving had already descended to below 500 meters in a short period of time. Suddenly entering the inner core of the ground of 1,000 despair from the thin spiritual energy in the air was no less than suddenly entering the bottom of the ocean from the surface of the sea in an instant. The sudden and enormous spiritual pressure almost made Wang Sheng lose his composure. Fortunately, the 5-word formula was strong enough. With the help of the confrontation formula, the army formula, the fighter formula, the movement formula, and the forwarding formula, he quickly adapted to the changes in spiritual pressure. When snow carving had only reached an altitude of more than 300 meters, Wang Sheng had already temporarily returned to normal. His body was still firmly attached to snow carving, and he didn't move at all. When he descended to more than 100 meters, snow carving suddenly rose up and directly made Wang Sheng feel like he was on a roller coaster. Damn it, when I was training in the Air Force Base, those Air Force pilots tried to take me down a notch. Do you think I haven't experienced it? Wang Sheng knew that snow carving definitely couldn't control it completely. This kind of random flying was obviously a show of strength to him. Wang Sheng's anger was instantly aroused, and he scolded snow carving. I sat on their plane for more than an hour, and nothing happened. Do you think such a little bit of trouble can make me surrender? When the Air Force pilot instructor trained Wang Sheng, he had been on things like roller coasters and roller coasters. Now that snow carving was obviously using the same trick, Wang Sheng didn't care at all. Snow carving seemed to also feel Wang Sheng's fighting spirit. The roller coaster didn't torment Wang Sheng, so it immediately changed its method and began to glide in the inner core of the ground of the Thousand Despair. After circling for about 10 minutes, just when Wang Sheng thought that snow carving was at his wit's end, snow carving suddenly flapped its wings and soared into the sky. After breaking through the altitude of 500 meters in an instant, Wang Sheng immediately knew what snow carving was planning. From the inner core of the ground of a Thousand Despair, which was rich in spiritual energy, to the high altitude where there was almost no spiritual energy at all, the feeling was almost suffocating. Snow carving had long been used to flying like this every day, but Wang Sheng had never played like this before. When he first entered the inner core from the air, Wang Sheng was already tired of dealing with it. Fortunately, it was from less to more, so Wang Sheng was able to adapt quickly. But now, as if he had suddenly rushed from the bottom of the sea to the thin air, the spiritual energy in Wang Sheng's body almost directly made Wang Sheng explode. Not to mention that it was so sudden, even a hydrogen balloon rising slowly from the ground to the high altitude would eventually reach its limit and explode. This was the normal speed. If a balloon suddenly compressed in the water was directly put into the thin vacuum, it would definitely explode directly. This was the current situation in Wang Sheng's body. Without the external pressure, the horrible spiritual energy expanded rapidly, and it seemed that it would explode at any moment. At this moment, Wang Sheng's mind was blank. There was nothing but the 5-word formula. Fortunately, Wang Sheng's nerves were strong. The sudden loss of pressure made Wang Sheng absent-minded for only a moment, but he immediately came back to himself. This time, it was the forwarding formula that focused on controlling the spiritual energy in his body and forcibly suppressing the almost expanding spiritual energy. At this time, the 3 small weeks of practice that Wang Sheng had just comprehended and the principles of Taiji Fist played a decisive role. The Taiji Yin-Yang cyclone in all the acupuncture points rotated rapidly, tightly binding the spiritual energy in the acupuncture points and preventing it from exploding. His body, which could withstand the force of tens of thousands of kilograms, also played an irreplaceable role. The muscles all over his body were tighter than those of bodybuilders on the stage. Finally, after surviving the first 10 seconds without exploding and dying, the spiritual energy began to slowly flow smoothly under the command of the forwarding formula, and it began to quickly adapt to the thin high altitude. Snow carving failed to get rid of Wang Sheng twice in a row. The trace of ridicule in his eyes seemed to have disappeared, and he began to fly crazily. Going up and down, Wang Sheng came on the roller coaster more than a dozen times in a row. Every time, Wang Sheng quickly adapted to it, and it ended. At this point, snow carving seemed to have no better way. Just when Wang Sheng breathed a sigh of relief, snow carving suddenly turned around in the air. His abdomen went up and his back went down. Wang Sheng was caught off guard and almost flew out. Chapter 1009. Fortunately, Wang Sheng had the experience of sitting on a fighter jet on Earth, so no matter what, he would not let go of the 2 long feathers. There was no safety belt on snow carving's back, so he could only use this crude method. Snow carving's sudden turn did not let Wang Sheng fall. Wang Sheng grabbed the 2 long feathers with both hands and hung on snow carving's body. Perhaps it felt uncomfortable. Snow carving quickly turned around, and Wang Sheng was thrown heavily on snow carving's back again. Wang Sheng was now almost desperately using the 5-word formula, desperately activating the battle consciousness minion to help, hoping that snow carving would calm down and not play this kind of trick. However, despite continuous efforts, Wang Sheng did not see any signs of improvement. Snow carving was still struggling crazily. From the top to the bottom, from the bottom to the hands, Wang Sheng did not know how many times the spiritual pressure would increase, and in the next moment, the spiritual pressure would instantly drop to 0, and in the next moment, the air would be normal, and in the next moment, the air would be thin. After struggling for more than an hour, snow carving did not stop. Could it be that this was a necessary experience to conquer snow carving? Maybe. Wang Sheng did not know. At least other monsters, such as the giant bear, did not experience this. Of course, it was more likely that snow carving's level was higher than the giant bear's, so it would not be easily controlled by Wang Sheng. Even a fierce horse would need a period of wrestling to conquer. It was not like Wang Sheng would not allow snow carving to resist. Now, Wang Sheng did not have such powerful means. Snow carving carried Wang Sheng up and down. For a moment, Wang Sheng really could not care about how to control snow carving and desperately adapted to the rapid change of spiritual pressure. From 0 to max, or from max to 0, Wang Sheng felt that in all his years of cultivation, he had never experienced such a sudden change, which made it more troublesome for Wang Sheng to control. The bad thing was that Wang Sheng could not free his hands to use the 5-word formula to control snow carving and could only desperately control his own spiritual energy. The bad thing was that this kind of experience came so often that Wang Sheng was slowly getting used to it. He didn't even need to do that many times a day. Just a few hundred rounds like this would be enough. Forget about decompression sickness. Wang Sheng's body would be tempered by the spiritual pressure to become incomparably strong. His ability to control spiritual energy would also increase exponentially. The problem was that what Wang Sheng wanted now was not this kind of passive training. His main goal was still to control snow carving. As long as he could control snow carving, he could train like this as many times as he wanted in the future. Unable to get rid of Wang Sheng after going back and forth like this, snow carving seemed to be a little anxious. It sped up, and at the same time, it also increased its altitude, desperately tossing and turning. In any case, Wang Sheng was determined to hold on to the 2 strong long feathers on the back of snow carving. He would not let go no matter what, and became one with snow carving. Up and down, Wang Sheng even saw the figure of old Taoist Ling Su several times. However, in this situation, Wang Sheng had no time to take care of himself and had no time to greet the old Taoist. Although the old Taoist's sensing range was only about 100 meters, there were several times when snow carving flew below this height. Soon, the old Taoist found traces of Wang Sheng and snow carving. Seeing Wang Sheng being tossed up and down on the back of snow carving, the old Taoist's heart immediately tightened. What others saw was that Wang Sheng had successfully sat on the back of snow carving. But what the old Taoist sensed was that Wang Sheng's breath was more chaotic than that of Sister Rosa, who was waiting to be rescued. After being tossed around by snow carving, it would be abnormal if Wang Sheng's breath was not chaotic. Unfortunately, all of Wang Sheng's attention was focused on himself and snow carving, and there was no way for him to inform the old Taoist Ling Su. The old Taoist watched as Wang Sheng was sent to the sky, and then he dove down with a free fall. When he was about to reach the ground, he quickly pulled up again. He prayed to the Taoist ancestor in his heart, praying that the Taoist ancestor would bless Wang Sheng. He watched as snow carving carried Wang Sheng to the sky again. In a short while, they flew out of the old Taoist sight. The old Taoist did not know how to evaluate it. Wang Sheng was really bold, and he played too hard. This time, the snow eagle flew faster than any of the previous times. According to Wang Sheng's experience, the scale of the ground from here should be about 10,000 meters. It must be said that snow carving was really tough to be able to fly so high in a place like this. According to Wang Sheng's knowledge, the highest flying bird on Earth could only fly about 11,000 meters, but this snow carving easily flew to a height of 10,000 meters, and it seemed that it still had energy to spare. The air here had become unbelievably thin. Even Wang Sheng was gasping for breath. Perhaps it heard Wang Sheng's panting, but snow carving felt that it had found a way to deal with Wang Sheng, so it flapped its wings and flew higher again. Wang Sheng watched as snow carving carried him higher, but he could not do anything to stop it. At this height, the temperature was much lower than in the core inner circle of the land of Thousand Despair. Wang Sheng had to forcibly use his spiritual energy to activate the thermal formation on his underwear, so that he would not be frozen into a popsicle. However, without replenishment from the outside world, even Wang Sheng could not hold on for long in this state. But snow carving did not have this problem. With its strong strength and long use to life, this height was nothing to it. After more than 20,000 meters, Wang Sheng had to take out the cylinder and take a few breaths of normal air. Snow carving was still rising, and Wang Sheng was also angry. Let's see how high you can go. As he continued to fly, Wang Sheng could no longer use his experience to determine how high he could go. Anyway, his body was always above the clouds. But according to the flight time, it should be about 30,000 meters high. You're good. Wang Sheng took another breath of air in the cylinder. Looking at snow carving's struggling movements, he scolded coldly. This was like a provocation, and it angered snow carving, who was already struggling. With a loud roar, snow carving suddenly rolled in the air. This time, Wang Sheng suffered from the provocation. His body kept spinning with the rapid rolling of snow carving. His hands tightly grasped the two long feathers of snow carving. His body was spinning with the rolling of snow carving, and it was extremely painful. Unfortunately, this made the snow eagle very uncomfortable. The snow eagle rolled even faster, and Wang Sheng was thrown further and further away from the snow eagle's body. He could only rely on his hands to hold onto the snow eagle's body. This was at least 30,000 meters high. If he missed, it would be bad. Snow carving was determined to throw Wang Sheng out. The rolling speed was getting faster and faster, and Wang Sheng became a heavy object hanging on the two long feathers of snow carving. There was no other way but to throw him. Just when Wang Sheng was still glad that he was strong enough to grab the long feathers of snow carving, the two long feathers in his hands suddenly shook. Wang Sheng looked up and was shocked. Because of the violent rolling, the two long feathers had been slowly pulled out by Wang Sheng. They were about to leave his body. The next moment, Wang Sheng grabbed the two long feathers of snow carving and flew out. They were more than 30,000 meters high. Chapter 10:10. Damn, Wang Sheng didn't know how to describe his current feelings. He had thought that the two long feathers were sturdy enough, but no matter how much he thought about it, he did not expect that the speed of the snow eagle's tumbling was too fast. The force of his body being flung up actually pulled out the two long feathers. In an instant, Wang Sheng flew up into the air. There was no other leverage on his body. He just paused in the air for a moment, and then Wang Sheng's body began to fall freely. The moment he fell, Wang Sheng saw that snow carving had already flown not far away from him. His eyes shot out I've won light as he looked at Wang Sheng in ridicule. Wang Sheng pointed his middle finger at snow carving and shouted, "Wait for next time." His body began to fall uncontrollably. He tried his best to open up his body, and with a wave of his hand, a backpack appeared in Wang Sheng's hand. The shape was similar to the parachute that Wang Sheng carried when he went on a mission. Since he was going to play this kind of extreme sport, how could Wang Sheng not prepare a parachute? This world didn't have enough strong fabric, but there was no lack of demon beast leather that was many times stronger than parachute fabric. Before he set off, Wang Sheng had asked a few master tailors to help him make a thin parachute, which was made from 8th-stage realm demonic beast skin. The skin had been removed in layers during the pre-treatment, and the tanning process was extremely soft. When put together, it was a parachute that was even bigger than Wang Sheng's parachute on Earth. 8th-stage demon beast leather was many times stronger than normal parachute fabric. Wang Sheng couldn't even tear it apart with moderate strength. It was enough to be used as the parachute's surface material. As for the parachute rope, it was also made from 8th-stage demon beast leather, cut into thin strips and weaved together. It was much safer than landing on Earth. From the backpack to the parachute rope to the umbrella surface, it was all made from materials that were many times stronger than those on Earth. Coupled with Wang Sheng's current strong cultivation, no matter how high the parachute was, Wang Sheng wasn't afraid. The record for parachuting on Earth was more than 30,000 meters. Wang Sheng's current physical fitness was hundreds of times stronger than when he was on Earth. Even if the height exceeded the Earth's record, Wang Sheng could still handle it easily. He opened up his body and tried to use the method of increasing the cross-section to slow down the speed of descent. After passing through the clouds, Wang Sheng began to look for familiar signs on the ground and tried to adjust in the direction of the old Taoist. During Wang Sheng's descent, snow carving had accompanied him for a while. After flying for a while, he let out a long cry of victory and happily left Wang Sheng and disappeared in the blink of an eye. At an altitude of about 3,000 to 4,000 meters, Wang Sheng opened his parachute. Falling from a height of more than 30,000 meters, if the altitude was too low, it would be very dangerous. Wang Sheng didn't want to smash into the ice layer in the core inner circle of the ground of 1,000 despair and become a meat patty. Boom! A pulling force came from the parachute rope, and Wang Sheng's speed decreased sharply. His body seemed to be pulled by an elastic rope, paused in the air for a while, and then began to slowly slow down. At this distance, Wang Sheng could already see the general area where the old Taoist Ling Su was. Controlling the parachute rope, Wang Sheng floated in that direction. After the parachute was successfully opened, as long as snow carving didn't come over to cause trouble, Wang Sheng could basically control his landing point. Fortunately, snow carving might have been tired and directly returned to her nest to rest. She didn't disturb Wang Sheng, so Wang Sheng was able to safely control the parachute and land in his target area. At an altitude of 500 meters, Wang Sheng once again felt the sudden surge of spiritual energy. However, this was no longer a problem for Wang Sheng. He easily adapted to the change in the concentration of spiritual energy and continued to descend. At this distance, Wang Sheng could already see the old Taoist Ling Su's figure. His landing target was also in that position, so he easily floated over. When old Taoist Ling Su saw something suddenly open in the air, he realized that something was wrong. He kept staring at that strange thing, and it wasn't until Wang Sheng landed within 500 meters that he clearly saw Wang Sheng hanging below. Wang Sheng actually used this method to land from a high altitude. This only surprised the old Taoist Ling Su for a moment, and then he began to worry about whether Wang Sheng could land safely. It wasn't until he saw Wang Sheng slowly float over and land not far in front of him that he completely relaxed. He even took 2 steps forward. As soon as he landed, Wang Sheng didn't have time to say anything to the old Taoist and immediately put away the parachute. The strong wind here was too strong. If he was not careful, he would be blown away along with the umbrella. There weren't many places for him to borrow strength in the air. Even if Wang Sheng was extremely strong, it wouldn't be of much use. The old Taoist could feel Wang Sheng's aura from afar, and he knew that he wasn't seriously injured. Hence, he didn't say anything on the spot. He packed up the parachute with Wang Sheng and returned to the igloo to warm up for a while. Then he asked Wang Sheng, "Did you fail? That guy is definitely beyond the peak of the legendary realm." Wang Sheng nodded and directly told him the reason. How did he fall? Wasn't he holding on tight? The old Taoist asked in confusion. He had flown up and down so many times before, but he didn't fall. It was very surprising that he only fell after flying to a high place. This time, Wang Sheng didn't answer directly. Instead, he took out the 2 long feathers that he had pulled out from snow carving from his storage ring and placed them in front of the old Taoist. As soon as he saw the 2 long feathers, the old Taoist instantly understood everything. It turned out that he had pulled out the feathers that fixed his body. No wonder they fell. Reaching out to pick up one of the feathers, the old Taoist began to examine it carefully. After a while, he nodded and said, "At least the 10th realm. I knew it." Of course, Wang Sheng believed the old Taoist judgment. It was normal for it to exceed the peak of the legendary realm. Otherwise, there was no way to explain why he couldn't control it at all. Fortunately, it didn't kill you as soon as it saw you. The old Taoist smiled and reminded Wang Sheng, "You should feel lucky. Otherwise, you wouldn't have the chance to sit here anymore." He was really lucky. Of course, the key to this was definitely the 5-word formula. If it weren't for the 5-word formula that made snow carving less hostile, Wang Sheng would have been killed even if there were 10 of him. "Do you still want to go?" The old Taoist looked at Wang Sheng and asked. "Of course." Wang Sheng replied without hesitation. "When I fell, I asked it to wait. I will go back to find it. It can't run away." "All right, The old Taoist didn't hide his expression, as if he had known this would happen. After that, the old Taoist asked curiously, "What was that thing that you fell? How did it play? Did it feel different in the air?" Chapter 10:11. That's a parachute. It's specially used for landing from the sky. Wang Sheng said the name directly. As for the principle behind it, was there even a need to explain? How could a person like the old Taoist not see it at a glance? Everything in your hands can be used in a completely different way, the old Taoist lamented. It was as if things could be reborn as soon as they were in Wang Sheng's hands. Not to mention the Qian Sheng Yuan Moistening Z workshop and the Workshop of Dreams. Just the things that they had seen in the glacier basin over the past few days didn't seem to be anything special, but they could be very useful. For example, lime to keep warm. Who didn't know that lime would heat up after adding water? But no one thought of bringing it with them to keep warm. Everyone just used a thermal formation. Another example was a sleigh. Everyone knew that the vehicles used to transport things outside could move quickly, but no one thought of making a sleigh that could move on the snow. Wang Sheng just added a rotating formation stone and a wide track. It was such a simple thing. It could move quickly on the snow without sinking. Why didn't others think of it? Even the igloo was like that. Who would have thought that a house made of ice would not melt when a fire was lit inside? On the other hand, everyone understood the principle of a parachute. With an umbrella, it would, of course, fall slower. Unfortunately, how many people had the chance to fly into the sky? It wasn't surprising that people couldn't think of such a use. But why did Wang Xing think of it? This was the difference. Old Taoist, when I conquer that beast, I'll bring you up to play. Wang Sheng's face was full of excitement. He didn't feel defeated at all. Believe me, you'll like it. Is there any different feeling up there? Speaking of flying, the old Taoist had already tried Wang Sheng's triangular wings once. At that time, it didn't feel very strange. Wang Sheng's excitement piqued the old Taoist's interest, and he asked curiously, "You'll instantly experience the changes in the spiritual energy in the inner zone of the lands of despair. You'll definitely like it." Wang Sheng happily shared his feelings. "I've experienced it more than 100 times up there." Following that, Wang Sheng told them about how he felt when snow carving brought him in and out of the inner circle of the land of thousand despair. After describing it in detail, he shouted to the old Taoist, "You don't need to do much. Just play for a few months, and your control over your spiritual energy will definitely increase by many folds." Do you believe me? I do. How could the old Taoist not believe that Wang Sheng could be so excited after such a crazy torment? "Come, let's give it a try." Of course, Wang Sheng wouldn't refuse. He immediately stood up and stood in front of the old Taoist. He pushed the old Taoist's hand. The push went on for an hour. Wang Sheng used his newly learned technique of controlling spiritual energy without holding back. The old Taoist couldn't help but want to immediately ride snow carving with Wang Sheng. That's enough. The old Taoist felt that Wang Sheng had enough control over spiritual energy. He almost cried out in surprise. Fortunately, he had a high state of mind. His face was calm. "You have to rest for a few days. You can't play so intensely anymore." Wang Sheng's performance just now made the old Taoist look at him in a new light. Not to mention, Wang Sheng's ability to control spiritual energy was almost on par with the old Taoist's. The old Taoist couldn't believe that Wang Sheng, who was only in the 8th stage, could almost match the old Taoist control of the 12th stage. The old Taoist had cultivated hard for more than 100 years. Wang Sheng had only used the 5-word formula and the crazy movements of snow carving to achieve such an effect. How could the old Taoist not be moved? "The next time I advance, I will play here even if you beat me to death." The old Taoist was once again determined to advance in the land of 1,000 devastations. No wonder everyone wanted to cultivate here. It was not only because of the rich spiritual energy. There were so many unexpected surprises. Although Wang Sheng seemed to have completely adapted to the sudden change in the concentration of spiritual energy on snow carving's back, now that it was safe and he had calmed down, he realized that his body was riddled with injuries. Countless hidden injuries that were invisible to the naked eye were densely packed. His strong body was of no use. He could only rely on rest. The old Taoist saw through Wang Sheng's condition at a glance. That was why he forced Wang Sheng to rest for a few days. Wang Sheng did not force himself. He obediently recuperated under the old Taoist's guidance. He used a 5-word formula almost nonstop. Finally, after 7 days, the hidden injuries in his body were mostly healed. Of course, the improvement in his ability to control spiritual energy would not change. Now, it was too easy for Wang Sheng to cultivate. It was effortless. He could easily reach the level of control that he used to need the help of the little person with combat awareness. To put it quantitatively, Wang Sheng's control was originally 50 and the old Taoist's 200. Now, Wang Sheng's control was at least 100. The old Taoist was impressed that Wang Sheng's control was comparable to his. That was under the circumstance that they had the same level of cultivation. Wang Sheng's cultivation was too far from the old Taoist's. The fact that he could reach this level was enough to shock the old Taoist. When his body was almost recovered, Wang Sheng immediately set off again. He rushed to the bottom of the iceberg of snow carving's lair and climbed up the iceberg again. The old Taoist did not stop him. The confrontation between Wang Sheng and snow carving was also an interactive game between the two sides to see who would yield first. The old Taoist only told Wang Sheng to be careful and watched him climb up the iceberg again. When Wang Sheng appeared in front of snow carving again, snow carving's eyes were no longer playful. This guy was simply human. Looking at snow carving's clever performance, Wang Sheng strengthened his determination to subdue snow carving. However, although snow carving did not seem to underestimate Wang Sheng anymore, Wang Sheng still did not get the chance to tie his roll of safety rope to snow carving. What Wang Sheng could do was to jump on snow carving's back like last time, grab the other 2 long feathers, and then be carried into the sky by snow carving. Next, it was another round of flying up and down. Snow carving showed his special skills. All kinds of difficult movements emerged one after another. He went in and out of the iceberg more than 100 times, but he still could not get rid of Wang Sheng. When the snow eagle had no choice but to fly high into the sky again, it wanted to do another high-speed spin to throw Wang Sheng down. However, after spinning twice, Wang Sheng let go of the feather he was holding and jumped down on his own. Since he was going to get rid of him anyway, why did Wang Sheng have to pull out 2 of snow carving's long feathers? Wait for me for a few days. I'll come back and challenge you. Wang Sheng did not shout at snow carving this time. Instead, he used the 5 words formula to release his thoughts. He did not know if snow carving could sense it. Chapter 10:12. This time, snow carving felt Wang Sheng's kindness. At least it didn't lose 2 more feathers. So, when Wang Sheng was falling, the snow eagle accompanied him in a very humane manner. It wasn't until Wang Sheng opened his parachute that Wang Sheng could see snow carving's huge figure and curious eyes not far away. Fortunately, snow carving didn't attack Wang Sheng's parachute out of curiosity. Otherwise, Wang Sheng would have suffered tragedy. Snow carving accompanied Wang Sheng until he was 100 meters in the air. They could clearly see old Taoist Ling Su looking up at them before leaving. Of course, Wang Sheng landed not far from the old Taoist, safe and sound. In the igloo, old Taoist Ling Su looked at Wang Sheng, who had a smile on his face, and asked, "Did you fail again?" In fact, this was nonsense. If he had succeeded, Wang Sheng would have landed on snow carving instead of parachuting. It's not considered a failure. It was clear that Wang Sheng had improved this time. At the very least, the snow eagle could sense his goodwill. This was a step toward success. "Do you want to continue?" the old Taoist asked again. "Have you ever seen me give up halfway?" Wang Sheng countered with a question. The old Taoist smiled. He seemed to want to say something, but in the end, he didn't. This time was obviously much better than the last time. Not only was it reflected in the relationship between Wang Sheng and snow carving, but it was also reflected in Wang Sheng's body experiencing hundreds of changes in the concentration of spiritual energy. He didn't have as many internal injuries as last time. There were still injuries, but they had weakened a lot. Under such circumstances, Wang Sheng's ability to control his spirit qi was once again tempered. Even the strength of his body was tempered once again due to the explosive power of the spirit qi. After resting for 3 days, Wang Sheng climbed up the iceberg again. But this time, Wang Sheng did not hide under the log and wait for snow carving to return to its nest. Instead, he sat in snow carving's nest and waited comfortably. Snow carving flew over with its prey from afar. It did not attack when it saw someone in the nest, nor did it turn around and fly away when it saw someone. Instead, it landed naturally. After riding the snow carving twice, if Wang Sheng didn't even have this bit of tacit understanding, then he could forget about conquering the snow carving. The prey was still a demonic beast, but this time the demonic beast was relatively larger. However, under snow carving's sharp claws and powerful curved beak, it was easily dismembered into several pieces. Snow carving even threw a piece to Wang Sheng, which made Wang Sheng not know whether to laugh or cry. The fur was not removed, and the skin was not peeled. How could he let Wang Sheng eat it raw? Originally, he wanted to refuse, but after thinking about it, Wang Sheng thanked snow carving and accepted its gift. Of course, in return, Wang Sheng took out a piece of demonic beast meat from his storage ring and gave it to snow carving. He thought that snow carving would be very vigilant and not eat it, but Wang Sheng didn't expect snow carving to give him face. After eating his own, it tore up the piece of demonic beast meat that Wang Sheng took out and swallowed it. After eating, snow carving stood at the edge of the nest and called out to Wang Sheng. Wang Sheng was stunned. Was it inviting him to jump on its back and fly? Just as he was thinking, snow carving had already pushed off with its claws, opened its wings, and flew out from the edge of the nest. Subconsciously, Wang Sheng took a big stride forward and stepped on the edge of the nest. Regardless of whether it was safe or not, he aimed at the back of snow carving, who had just left, and flew out. Wang Sheng's body directly smashed on his snow carving's back, and snow carving's body also sank. But this weight was not a problem for snow carving at all. It didn't even flap its wings once before it was already flying. It was still the same tossing and turning. Snow carving took Wang Sheng back and forth hundreds of times in the land of thousand despair, and then once again flew high into the sky. Wang Sheng knew that snow carving wanted to get rid of him. Therefore, he didn't say anything. He let snow carving take him high into the sky, and then took the initiative to perform a fancy parachute jump and return to the ground. In the next few days, Wang Sheng accompanied snow carving to play like this every day. Snow carving also seemed to have found a fun toy. Whenever it saw Wang Sheng waiting for it in the nest, it would take the initiative to give him food and then jump out of the nest together with him and play happily. The more skilled Wang Sheng was, the more he found that although he was getting more and more familiar with snow carving and also seemed to understand some of its temperament, it was also because of this that Wang Sheng found that he could be friends with snow carving, but he couldn't command snow carving like he did with the giant bear. Snow carving's cultivation was much higher than that of the giant bear, although it sounded like a big gap. But Wang Sheng knew that the difference between the peak of the legendary realm and the 10th realm was not as simple as 9 plus 1 equals to 10. The 10th realm was a super expert, and super experts had the pride of super expert. Snow carving also had the pride of a super expert, and it would not be conquered. After discovering this, Wang Sheng was a little discouraged, but soon he thought it through. Why did he want to conquer a master of the 10th realm? If snow carving was a human, would he dare to be so arrogant? The continuous play made the relationship between Wang Sheng and snow carving warm up rapidly. Wang Sheng also thought it through. It was good to maintain this relationship. Anyway, when needed, Wang Sheng could use the name of a friend to ask snow carving to give him a ride. Other times, it was better to let snow carving fly freely in the sky. Oh yes, heavy snow, can I ask you for a favor? When Wang Sheng once again flew on snow carving to the highest point, Wang Sheng used the 5 words formula to send his thoughts over. You also know that I have a companion, and he is also a good guy. Can I bring him along to play with you tomorrow? Heavy Snow was the name that Wang Sheng gave to snow carving, and he had already accepted it. Snow carving let out a long, cheerful sigh. This time, Wang Sheng clearly felt the meaning of snow carving. Yes, huge progress. Wang Sheng also laughed cheerfully and then hugged snow carving's neck, let go at the highest point, and once again enjoyed the taste of free fall. Still not successful? The old Taoist asked patiently as he cooked the fresh demon beast meat that snow carving had sent to Wang Sheng. Not successful, but it can also be said to be a success. This time, Wang Sheng did not hide it from the old Taoist. He first answered a question that made the old Taoist scratching his head, and then told him about his realization from snow carving. It's not bad that you can think this way. The old Taoist let out a long sigh and said with appreciation, actually, from the moment he found out that snow carving was a 10th degree realm demon beast, the old Taoist knew that Wang Sheng's goal was actually very slim, but he could not directly hit Wang Sheng's enthusiasm. So he just waited quietly, waiting for the day when Wang Sheng could think it through. Now that the old Taoist had finally waited for it, at least now, the old Taoist was very pleased. Wang Sheng was not the kind of person who would walk down a dark path. He and I are friends now, Wang Sheng said with a smile, and then gave the old Taoist a surprise. So I told him that I wanted to bring a friend to play, and he agreed. Chapter 10:13. Really, the old Taoist was overjoyed. He couldn't believe his ears. He could join in too. Of course, Wang Sheng replied with a smile. Don't tell me you don't even have this little bit of confidence in me. Not really. The old Taoist smiled a little embarrassedly. He had just lost his composure for a moment, but he immediately returned to normal. The old Taoist was actually very envious of Wang Sheng's ability to feel the sudden change of spiritual energy on snow carving's back every day. Unfortunately, he knew his own limitations. The old Taoist's 9 words incantation was not as good as Wang Sheng's. Even if his realm was much higher than Wang Sheng's, there was no way for him to make snow carving fly him. The old Taoist could get close to snow carving, but once he got close to snow carving, he would at most not see him as an enemy, not as close as Wang Sheng. The old Taoist had already tried this with other monsters. He couldn't even command the giant bear in the inner circle of the land of 1,000 despair, let alone snow carving. Now that he suddenly heard that Wang Sheng and the snow condor had discussed bringing him out to play, the old Taoist priest, who had always had a lively personality, was overjoyed. Don't be too happy yet. Wang Sheng's words extinguished the old Taoist's enthusiasm. Before the old Taoist could react, Wang Sheng asked, do you know how to parachute? Are you afraid of heights? You know that guy doesn't let people come down. His favorite thing to do is to fly to the highest point he can and then throw us down. These days, Wang Sheng had parachuted back every time. The old Taoist would help Wang Sheng collect the umbrella from below. He was already a skilled worker. How could he not know how to play snow carving? This was troublesome. I don't think he's afraid of heights. The old Taoist thought about it. He had never felt afraid of heights, so he shouldn't be afraid of heights. However, he really didn't know how to parachute. It wasn't that he didn't know how to fall from a height of more than 30,000 meters. Not to mention that the old Taoist was in the 12th stage. Even if he was in a higher realm, he would still be dead if he didn't know how to parachute. Start from the beginning. I'll teach you. Wang Sheng knew that the old Taoist didn't know how, but it wasn't too late to teach him. Before they set off, Wang Sheng had more than one parachute. The strength of the Yao beast hide was many times stronger than the umbrella ropes on Earth. Even after jumping so many times, it was still as tough as ever. Wang Sheng's arms were unable to move it no matter how hard he tried. This also meant that after Wang Sheng's inspection, Wang Sheng's umbrella bag was enough for him to use several dozen times. Wang Sheng gave one to the old Taoist in the igloo. In the igloo, Wang Sheng began to explain the essentials of parachuting to the old Taoist. Fortunately, the old Taoist cultivation was high and he was a master himself. As long as he knew the principles, it was easy for him to do it. However, before officially jumping from snow carving, Wang Sheng strongly ordered the old Taoist to fold the parachute himself. This was a necessary lesson for every parachutist. At the same time, it also meant that he had to be responsible for his own life. These few days, the old Taoist helped Wang Sheng pack the parachute and saw Wang Sheng fold the parachute himself many times. After Wang Sheng taught him once, the old Taoist practiced a few times, and he was already very good at it. He was no worse than the trained parachutists on Earth. Tomorrow, I will try my best to tell Heavy Snow that we will jump at a low altitude. Wang Sheng knew that there was no way to practice in this place. Even the iceberg where Heavy Snow lived was conical. If they jumped from the top, they would only hit the iceberg. Wang Sheng tried his best to tell the old Taoist about the parachuting techniques and possible problems. The old Taoist also memorized and learned very seriously. They both knew that this was a very important thing, and no one was lazy. When the two were about to climb up the iceberg, Wang Sheng was in trouble again. The old Taoist was a master of the 12th stage. As long as his hand touched the iceberg, it would immediately stimulate the super demon beast in the iceberg, and then melt the iceberg. Heavy Snow's nest at the top of the mountain might also suffer. Therefore, in this situation, Wang Sheng could only carry the old Taoist up the mountain. Using a few leather safety ropes, Wang Sheng weaved a very comfortable backpack for the old Taoist to sit in. Anyway, with the old Taoist cultivation, he could rely on Wang Sheng at any time and anywhere. He did not need to worry about any problems. He just needed to be careful not to touch the iceberg. It was very easy. With Wang Sheng's strength, even if he was carrying the old Taoist Ling Su, he did not need to worry about his physical strength running out. It was also the first time that he was not familiar with it, so it took a little longer than 10 minutes. By the time Wang Sheng brought the old Taoist Ling Su to the eagle's nest, Heavy Snow had already finished eating his prey. Of course, he did not forget to leave a piece for Wang Sheng. "Thank you very much." Wang Sheng took out the demonic beast meat from his storage ring and threw it to Heavy Snow. Then, he introduced the old Taoist Ling Su to Heavy Snow. "This is the friend I mentioned yesterday. He will play with you today." From the moment the old Taoist came up, Heavy Snow was obviously a little wary. However, the old Taoist also used the wholeness formula and the formation formula along the way, trying his best to dispel Heavy Snow's hostility. Although the old Taoist could not command the giant bear, he could still make the giant bear not be hostile to him. When they arrived in front of Heavy Snow, the old Taoist's efforts and Wang Sheng's introduction worked. Heavy Snow actually lowered his head and touched the old Taoist intimately with his hooked beak. Although fear could be seen in his eyes, he still accepted the old Taoist after all. "Let's go," Wang Sheng said. Heavy Snow had already jumped out of the eagle's nest skillfully. Wang Sheng pulled the old Taoist and jumped onto Heavy Snow's back. The old Taoist had probably never experienced such an exciting thing before. He actually disregarded his age of over 100 years in calmness and began to shout excitedly like Wang Sheng. The next moment, the old Taoist finally got a taste of what Wang Sheng had said. It was the feeling of suddenly entering the inner core of the land of despair from a place devoid of spiritual energy. The increase in pressure was something that could never be described by others. It was fine from the outside to the inside. The old Taoist cultivation could be restored in an instant. However, from the inside to the outside, the inner core suddenly became devoid of spiritual energy. The swelling spiritual energy in the old Taoist body almost went out of control. How strong and terrifying was the spiritual energy in the body of a 12th stage expert? How pure was it? How terrifying was the sudden internal expansion? Although the old Taoist cultivation was high, the old Taoist almost could not suppress the surging spiritual energy in his body and became an exploding balloon. Finally, Wang Sheng's 5 words formula fell on the old Taoist in advance. Moreover, it was the 5 words formula with the army formula as support. It instantly improved the old Taoist's physical condition and spiritual energy control, and finally pulled the old Taoist back from the edge of exploding. Suppressing a breath of spiritual energy, the old Taoist let out a long sigh. "That was close. It's not that bad. Slowly get used to it." Wang Sheng laughed. He patted the Heavy Snow below and said to Heavy Snow, "Slow down. Let the old Taoist slowly get used to it." Let's fly low and have some fun with parachuting. Chapter 10:14. Heavy snow gave him face this time and did not continue his game with Wang Sheng. Perhaps he was afraid of old Taoist Ling Su's super strength. Most human experts knew that the old Taoist was an expert, but they could not sense how strong the old Taoist was. However, Heavy Snow was different. He was originally in the 10th degree realm. Coupled with his wild beast instincts, he knew how terrifying the old Taoist was. Carrying 2 people on his back, Heavy Snow quickly flew to a height of about 1 kilometer according to Wang Sheng's instructions. This height was similar to the height of Eagle's Nest, but it was still an area with thin spiritual energy. Open your parachute when you jump out, Wang Sheng urged old Taoist Ling Su. It was the old Taoist's first time parachuting, so he did not try anything difficult. It was similar to paratroopers opening their parachutes at the cabin door. They jumped out and opened their parachutes to ensure their safety. After the old Taoists got used to it, they would try something more thrilling. To ensure their safety, Wang Sheng watched as the old Taoist jumped out. He watched as he pulled the handle of the parachute in the air. The parachute opened in the air, and then he jumped down. 2 umbrella flowers floated down not far from each other in the core of the inner zone of Thousand Despair. This was a rare spectacle. Apart from the people involved, no one else could see it. The huge inner zone of Thousand Despair had become Wang Sheng and old Taoist Ling Su's playground. This was the first time the old Taoist had landed safely. He did not have the time to be emotional or excited. He remembered Wang Sheng's instructions. After he jumped down, he immediately put the umbrella away. This was the key to whether he could go up and play more powerful moves. The old Taoist was not as experienced as Wang Sheng in controlling his direction. Therefore, when he jumped down this time, he deviated from the igloo by a lot. However, it didn't matter. Wang Sheng took the sleigh and used more than an hour to return to the igloo. While enjoying the fragrant, fresh demon beast meat, they summarized the experience and lessons learned from the old Taoist parachute jump. This is too exciting. Old Taoist Run was a peerless expert, but it was his first time jumping from a height of 1,000 meters. Until now, the old Taoist was still in a state of excitement, reminiscing every moment he had spent in the air. After the old Taoist calmed down a little, Wang Sheng began to sum up his successes and failures. Those movements were standard, those were not standard enough, and so on. The old Taoist's ability to accept things was very strong. He quickly absorbed and digested what Wang Sheng said. In fact, the old Taoist should have received 2 changes in spiritual energy from nothing and 2 changes in spiritual energy in one day. However, it was clear that when Wang Sheng took him to climb the iceberg, the sudden weakening of spiritual energy was not as intense as when they flew under the heavy snow. The difference in speed was like heaven and earth, so the feeling was naturally different. The old Taoist did not have many internal injuries like Wang Sheng. It was just an injury. Under the double effect of Wang Sheng and the old Taoist 5-word formula and 9 words mantra, it quickly disappeared. The biggest threat was that the old Taoist cultivation was too strong, and the sudden expansion of spiritual energy in his body brought about a crisis. The old Taoist had experienced it once, and with the help of Wang Sheng, he had some experience. He believed that the next time, he would be able to deal with it better. Between life and death, cultivation is indeed the fastest way. The old Taoist had only experienced it once, but he already felt that he had benefited a lot. He thought about Wang Sheng. These days, he had done it hundreds of times every day. No wonder his cultivation and experience had increased so much, and his control of spiritual energy was close to that of the old Taoist. I need to think about it carefully. Don't disturb me. The old Taoist really had an epiphany. He sat on the ice bed alone to comprehend it. Wang Sheng took over the old Taoist's work. He carefully guarded the surroundings, prepared food, and waited for the old Taoist to finish comprehending. This was not seclusion. The old Taoist sat alone for more than 10 hours before he woke up. There was more confidence in his eyes. As a peerless expert, as long as he had experienced it once, it would be enough for him to accurately control it and completely transformed that experience into his own. When they went again the next day, the old Taoist had calmed down a lot. This time, Wang Sheng and the old Taoist experienced the sudden change of spiritual energy more than 10 times before they jumped down from a height of 4,000 meters. When they jumped down, the old Taoist and Wang Sheng did the same. They free fell for a while before opening the umbrella. They thoroughly enjoyed the pleasure of making a few poses in the air before landing safely. The second time, the old Taoist was basically able to control the landing point. It was only a few miles away from the igloo. When they returned to the igloo to rest again, the old Taoist was already a skilled extreme sports enthusiast. I think I like this feeling. The old Taoist did not hide his preference. I finally know why you were so happy a few days ago. Even if you couldn't conquer the heavy snow, you could still enjoy it every day. It's good that you like it. Wang Sheng smiled and continued. After you enjoy parachuting from a height of 10,000 feet, you will completely fall in love with this feeling. You will be unable to stop. This is a good opportunity for cultivation. The old Taoist did not doubt this. He immediately said to Wang Sheng, "The heavy snow is fast and high. Going back and forth in the inner circle of the land of despair is definitely the best way to hone your ability to control spiritual energy. Don't waste it." Wang Sheng had known this for a long time. These 2 days, he did not dare to go too hard because he was worried that the old Taoist would not be able to adapt. With the old Taoist's words, Wang Sheng knew that the old Taoist had completely gotten used to it after 2 days of experience. The following days almost became Wang Sheng and the old Taoist's activities in the land of despair. Every day, the two of them would sit in the heavy snow and fly in the air for a few hours. They would go back and forth in the inner circle at least hundreds of times, honing their methods of controlling spiritual energy. In the end, the two of them would always parachute from a height of more than 30,000 meters together, enjoying the thrill of free falling into the inner circle of the land of despair after the extremely thin air. Parachuting from a height of 30,000 meters could definitely temper an ordinary person to be calm in the face of danger. Moreover, the two of them were experts with extremely strong mental fortitude. Unknowingly, the two of them's willpower had been strengthened imperceptibly without anyone noticing it. The two of them played this kind of extreme sport for more than a month. Finally, it came to an end when the old Taoist realized that he had reached a bottleneck after another round of cultivation. "We've been here for quite some time. It's time to go back." In fact, the old Taoist enjoyed this kind of life very much. However, he also knew that he could not play like this every day. There were still many things waiting for them outside. If they did not go back soon, he was afraid that the people in the Laojun temple would be anxious. All right, Wang Sheng had not reached a bottleneck yet. However, his cultivation here was almost done. It was time to go back and take a look. He did not know what Bao Qing Yutang was doing now. It was time for Wang Sheng to find an opportunity to release the complete version of the core map of the land of despair. He believed that the people outside must be anxiously waiting. Chapter 10:15. Wang Sheng suddenly thought of something and turned to ask old Taoist Ling Su, "By the way, aren't you going to take a look at the aura on the sword?" Wang Sheng had 3 goals for coming here. One was to complete the advancement of the Black Viper transformation. The second was to conquer the snow carving and conquer the flying mount. This was barely half done, maybe not even half. The third was to sense the aura on the golden hairpin and the sword. He had already sensed the aura on the golden hairpin, but not on the sword. Now, Wang Sheng was asking about how to deal with the sword. I thought about it. You're right. Once the seal on the sword is undone, I'm afraid all the super monsters will be awakened, the old Taoist said sincerely to Wang Sheng. I believe you don't want to see that happen. You're so confident in the aura on the sword. Wang Sheng was confused. Wang Sheng had said that before, but it was all speculation. He did not know what the real aura would be like. Why was the old Taoist so confident? I don't know what's on the sword, but I'm sure it won't be worse than the golden hairpin, right? The old Taoist asked with a smile. Of course. Wang Sheng was completely sure of this. The sword definitely had the aura of battle, not the aura of daily cultivation. Moreover, it would definitely have an influence on them as strong as the golden hairpin. My control of spiritual energy has improved a lot these days, and I'm feeling enlightened. The old Taoist told the truth directly. I have a feeling that the opportunity to break through is right in front of me. When I get back, I'll go through the scrolls in the Peerless Treasure House and see what I can find. That's good. Wang Sheng was happy for the old Taoist. But what did this have to do with the aura on the sword? Once the sword's aura is released, I'm afraid I'll advance unknowingly. The old Taoist expressed his concern. I haven't thought it through completely, and I don't want to advance so early. Once I trigger the spirit qi to temper my body, I'm afraid that the commotion will immediately awaken all the super demon beasts. Wang Sheng immediately understood. The old Taoist was not worried that the aura on the sword would awaken the super demonic beast. Instead, he was worried that something would happen to the old Taoist's own aura. A 12th degree expert would definitely be able to affect the entire core region of the grounds of Thousand Despair. This was no joke. As for why the old Taoist was unwilling to level up immediately, it was easy to understand. Even Wang Sheng himself wanted to make sufficient preparations before leveling up. Even after his source spirit met the requirements, he still wanted to continue to do so. Was it strange for the old Taoist to think this way? Moreover, leveling up quickly wasn't necessarily a good thing. It was true that Wang Sheng had leveled up quickly before, but his spiritual energy cultivation was not reliable. In the end, he had to cultivate again by treating Sister Rosa to make up for this flaw. Moreover, Wang Sheng's cultivation was only at the 7th degree realm. The old Taoist was at the 12th degree realm, so he couldn't be rash. At his level, every step he took forward had to be done with extreme caution. He had created a situation that had never been done before. So how could he advance carelessly when he wasn't fully prepared? A golden hairpin was enough to make the two of them addicted. A complete sword was probably not something they could control. Even if they wanted to unlock the seal, they had to wait until the core region of the grounds of Thousand Despair was almost fully explored. The old Taoist made his decision, and Wang Sheng completely agreed. Hence, the two of them bid farewell to the heavy snow. After parachuting from the sky, they rode the sleigh and quickly left the glacier basin. They were already used to entering and exiting the core region of the grounds of Thousand Despair. Now, Wang Sheng and the old Taoist were no longer affected by the decompression sickness. They could enter and exit whenever they wanted. It was really convenient. When they returned to the underground palace of the old Supreme Lord Temple, Aki was anxiously waiting. Once again, she ignored the gazes of others and pounced on Wang Sheng. After comforting Aki for a long time, Aki finally calmed down. However, Wang Sheng could feel an indescribable anxiety in Aki's heart. He didn't know what had happened. Let's go back to the capital. Wang Sheng didn't stay for long in the underground palace. After a day's rest, he immediately set off with the old Taoist. Duke, I want to return to Carefree City. In the face of Wang Sheng's decision, Aki expressed her unwillingness to return to the capital with Wang Sheng with a complicated expression. The old Taoist of the old Supreme Lord Temple knew that Wang Sheng had Mei and Rosa in the capital. Hence, they seemed to understand why Aki didn't want to return to the capital. Even the old Taoist Ling Su felt the same way. However, Wang Sheng knew that Aki must be hiding something from him. Aki, I have a grudge against a super expert in Carefree City. Wang Sheng didn't hide the fact that his relationship with Carefree City wasn't very good recently. He warned Aki, it might not be safe for you to return to Carefree City. In the face of Wang Sheng's sudden honesty, Aki was a little at a loss. After struggling for a while, she finally shook her head. Duke, the capital isn't suitable for me. What's troubling you? Tell me. I'll help you. Wang Sheng said to Aki very seriously, is it because the Xia family has something on you that you have no choice but to submit? If that's the case, I can talk to the Xia family. I won't make things difficult for you. Trust me, the Xia family won't fall out with me just because of you. There were many movies and TV shows on Earth where misunderstandings could be solved with a frank conversation. However, there were many episodes of misunderstandings. Wang Sheng didn't want such a melodramatic situation to happen around him. Hence, Wang Sheng asked directly. With Wang Sheng's current influence and the map of the core of the grounds of Thousand Despair that he was about to sell, it wouldn't be difficult for him to get the complete freedom of a death warrior like Aki. Wang Sheng was confident that he could do this. Now, it all depended on whether Aki believed in Wang Sheng. Aki didn't expect Wang Sheng to ask so directly. For a moment, she didn't know how to answer. After a while, she threw herself into Wang Sheng's arms and hugged Wang Sheng, refusing to let go. Wang Sheng also quietly hugged Aki's delicate body, quietly waiting for her answer. "Duke, I have my reasons. Believe me, I won't do anything to let you down." Finally, Aki spoke. "An old friend of the Xia family once told me that I might have a younger brother in the Xia family. I need to confirm it. It's not a high-ranking member of the Xia family. It's just an old friend of the Xia family." Wang Sheng frowned and asked Aki. "Yes, that's why I don't know if it's true or not." Aki expressed her worries. "Even if you appear, Duke, they can still push the blame away. It's better for me to confirm it myself." Damn it, Wang Sheng couldn't help but curse. The way these big families handle things is really King watertight. No one officially acknowledges it, but you don't dare to doubt it. Even if Wang Sheng were to step forward, it would be useless. Chapter 10:16. Because it was said by an insignificant person, if Wang Sheng came forward to negotiate officially, the other party could easily refute him with a simple statement that there was no such thing. What else could Wang Sheng do at this time? Incur hatred with the other party for no reason? Force the other party to admit it? The Xia family wouldn't give in so easily. Witness? What a joke. That person had either concealed his identity and changed his appearance, or he had been silenced. A nobody from the Xia family in exchange for a nail by Wang Sheng's side was definitely worth it. As for whether Wang Sheng would alienate Aki because of this and never give Aki a chance to get close to him again, it didn't matter. Originally, Aki was given to Wang Sheng for Wang Sheng to kill. If Wang Sheng kept her, it was equivalent to keeping trouble by his side. She wasn't forced to stay. If you couldn't bear to kill her, then don't blame others for using Aki, the death warrior, until her death. It was very disgusting. If Wang Sheng didn't ask, Aki wouldn't have told Wang Sheng. But for Aki, it was a great threat. The other party could tell Wang Sheng that there was no such thing, but would Aki dare to take the risk? As long as someone else from the Xia family told her some detailed information, Aki would probably believe it. Whatever the Xia family wanted to do, Aki would probably have to follow their instructions. Then how do you plan to confirm it? Wang Sheng sighed. Could he still persuade Aki to ignore it? Although this so-called younger brother and Chi had never seen each other before, much less lived together, for Chi, who had always thought of himself as an orphan, to suddenly have a blood relative was of great significance. If Wang Sheng tried to persuade him, it might backfire. "I remember that you were an orphan since you were young, right?" Wang Sheng could only remind Aki from this aspect, hoping that she would not be fooled by the Xia family. "In my memory, I really had a younger brother when I was young, but we were separated later." Aki, who was in Wang Sheng's arms, suddenly burst into tears. Even when her companions were killed by Wang Sheng, Aki did not shed a single tear. But now, Aki realized that she was so helpless in Wang Sheng's arms. This was troublesome. The Xia family must have a deep understanding of Aki. Thinking about it, it made sense. If he wanted to control Aki as a death warrior, how could he not investigate all 8 generations of Aki's ancestors? Perhaps this younger brother really had it. This was a way to suppress Aki. "I will spend as little time as possible with you. That way, even if they have something to do, I can shirk it." Aki was very smart. She was once a successful assassin, so she was very quick-witted. In any case, it's easy to find a reason. Just say that Madame Mayor cannot tolerate me. I will find a chance to slowly ask people from the Xia family for information. Wang Xing nodded. This was a good idea, but no matter how he thought about it, it still felt very awkward. He could only suppress his unhappiness and comfort Aki. Ask around in Carefree City, and I will ask people from the capital. You can use the gold coins in Carefree City as you wish. When I return, I will ask Mayor to send 10 million gold coins to you. The Xia family is not a monolithic block. There will always be people who like gold coins. Duke. Hearing Wang Sheng's words, Aki suddenly became emotional. Once again, she placed her beautiful face on Wang Sheng's chest, feeling the warmth that Wang Sheng transmitted to her. She never thought that Wang Sheng would take the initiative to show concern for her and ask about these things. Previously, she didn't know how to tell Wang Sheng. She was afraid that if she said it, Wang Sheng would abandon her. Now, after saying it out, the big stone that was stuck in his heart finally fell off. Wang Sheng didn't vent his anger on her because of this. This made Aki feel even more grateful for being by Wang Sheng's side. Towards the Xia family, she hated them even more. Duke. Aki's voice suddenly became shy. Even the delicate body that Wang Sheng was hugging felt a little hot. Whenever Duke wants it, I will serve Duke. When you are completely prepared. Wang Sheng smiled and tightened his grip on Aki's waist. All right, go to Carefree City and ask around. See if the important figures in the Xia family have any relatives that they don't know about. I will give you 100 million gold coins. If there is a chance, I will secretly get a few. If the other party controlled Aki's younger brother, Wang Sheng would kidnap the relatives of the high-ranking members of the Xia family. If things didn't work out, he would use the hostages to exchange. He believed that the relatives of the high-ranking members would be more important than the younger brother of a death warrior, right? Aki's eyes also lit up. Although Wang Sheng didn't do it himself, the effect of this move was much better than if she took the initiative to do it herself, especially since Wang Sheng was willing to throw in gold coins. Throwing in 100 million gold coins, not to mention kidnapping the relatives of a few high-ranking members, even killing them directly would tempt some people. Thinking of this, Wang Sheng raised the stakes again. Why go back? I will put up a few bounties for Carefree City and the Godly Might Prison. 100 million gold coins for each head of the monarch and elders of Xia country. I don't believe that they can still do anything in peace. Wasn't it just disgusting people? With Wang Sheng's huge bounty, even if the assassins didn't dare to act recklessly due to the power of the Xia family, who could be sure that the people around the important figures wouldn't be tempted by the temptation of 100 million gold coins? If they knew that someone had thrown in so many gold coins, they would probably sleep with their eyes open. Moreover, it wasn't that no one dared to attack the members of the Xia family. The land of mountains controlled by Baoqing Yutang was in full swing with the other families. If Wang Sheng didn't leave the land of Thousand Despair, they could only bear the brunt of the attack. The Xia family, in particular, was bordering the land of Thousand Despair, so they were under the most pressure. Once Wang Sheng put up a bounty, it was equivalent to being attacked from both front and back. Aki already didn't know what to say. She could only hug Wang Sheng's strong waist tightly, unable to say anything. That's right. You can use some information to gain their trust. Wang Sheng thought of something and suggested to Aki, I've already prepared a map of the core of the land of Thousand Despair. I'm going to sell it in a few days. You can give them the information in advance and scam them first. These large families were unusually greedy for the core of the land of Thousand Despair. When they heard this news, they would definitely do everything they could to buy the map from Wang Sheng. Wouldn't it be disadvantageous for them if everyone bought the map? Therefore, the Xia family would definitely think of ways to gain the upper hand, and they would have to pay a sufficient price for it. The price they would have to pay for this upper hand would probably be the bounty placed on them. How ironic was that? It was still a sad parting, but this time, Aki's heart was completely different. She now had hope in her heart and a sense of security. She no longer had to bear all the pressure on her own. That feeling was great. Chapter 1017. On the way back to the capital, the old Taoist didn't ask Wang Sheng much about Aki. However, Wang Sheng believed that the old Taoist could hear everything clearly in the underground palace. The underground palace had already replenished a batch of people. The disciples who had followed Wang Sheng and the old Taoist into the core of the grounds of Thousand Despair had only just recovered. Wang Sheng and the old Taoist return to the capital was just in time to bring them out safely. This was a batch of disciples who had been baptized in the core of the grounds of Thousand Despair. They definitely had the most potential and the most promising future. As long as they returned safely, the Temple of Lao Jun would definitely nurture them vigorously. This batch of people had also just arrived. However, it was a little difficult for Wang Sheng to get information about Bao Qing Yutang's recent activities from them. Every disciple who was sent to the underground palace for training had been selected a few months in advance and given pointers in a remote Taoist temple in the Temple of Lao Jun. Needless to say, they were definitely the best of the best. This period of time was for them to learn the scripture of Taoism. Even if they couldn't cultivate the scripture of Taoism due to the limited number of acupuncture points, they would still be allowed to cultivate some prerequisites. They would be nurtured as the core disciples. During this process of nurturing, how could they be distracted by news from the outside world? In any case, if Wang Sheng wanted to know the latest news, as long as they left the grounds of Thousand Despair and returned to the capital, he would definitely find out. It was just a little delay on the road. What was the difference between knowing sooner or later in the grounds of Thousand Despair? The man-eating ant army was patrolling around the core area of the lands of Thousand Extremities. Wang Sheng led the group as they hurried along. In any case, with Wang Sheng around, the lands of Thousand Extremities that others feared like a tiger was just a walk in the park for them. After rushing for more than 10 days, the group arrived at the outskirts of the capital. The old Taoist was still worried. He especially accompanied Wang Sheng back to Duke Chongqing's residence before bringing the group of elite disciples back to the Temple of Lao Jun in the outskirts of the capital. These disciples couldn't be allowed to make any mistakes and must be personally taught. In addition, the old Taoist definitely had to participate in organizing the scrolls brought back from the peerless treasure trove in order to gain some inspiration for his own cultivation. This trip back to the Temple of Lao Jun was certain that the old Taoist would be staying for a while. There were a few old Taoists of the Qing generation in Duke Chongqing's mansion, and in the capital city, it could be considered another place where fighting was not allowed easily. Even though Zhu Xingxing of Baoqing Yuhall hated Wang Sheng to the bone, he only dared to make a move in the outskirts of the capital, not inside the capital. Once he fought in the capital, he would be against all forces. He wasn't that Wang Sheng Tian. Mei who had rushed back when she heard the news, didn't care that there were so many pairs of eyes staring at her. With a light jog, she threw herself into Wang Sheng's arms. She hugged Wang Sheng tightly and refused to let go. Rosa came back with Mei, but when she saw Mei throw herself into Wang Sheng's arms, Rosa didn't move. She knew that her position in Wang Sheng's heart couldn't be the same as Mei-er's, and with her age, it was impossible for her to do the same thing as Mei-er. So she just stood there quietly and watched happily. Rosa, you come too. Wang Sheng didn't mean to leave Rosa out. When he carried Mei-er and turned around, he didn't forget to call Rosa along. Hearing Wang Sheng's call, Rosa's face immediately bloomed with a happy smile. She lifted the hem of her dress and walked over happily. She put one hand on Wang Sheng's elbow, and the three of them returned to the backyard together. Wang Sheng carried Mei directly back to the bedroom. From the beginning to the end, Mei didn't get off Wang Sheng's body. Her arms were tightly wrapped around Wang Sheng's neck, and she didn't let go at all. The whole Chongqing Duke's mansion turned a blind eye to this scene. When the three of them disappeared, everyone dispersed and did what they were supposed to do. No one disturbed the three of them. It's been hard on you. Wang Sheng felt very sorry for the two women. He made a big mess by himself, but he didn't care about anything. Almost everything was done by the two women, which made Wang Sheng feel very guilty. Especially this time, Wang Sheng knew that as long as nothing happened to him in the land of Thousand Despair, Mei and Rosa would be safe and sound. But after all, it was a little suspicious to leave the two women to fend for themselves in the capital city. So the first thing that Wang Sheng said when they met was to pity the two women for their hard work. Mayer gently covered Wang Sheng's mouth with her slender hand to stop him from saying anything. Sitting on Wang Sheng's lap, she suddenly had a mischievous idea. She reached out and pulled Rosa over, letting Rosa sit on Wang Sheng's other lap. The three of them hugged each other quietly, enjoying the silent warmth. The three of them stayed in the same position for a full 2 hours. The two women hadn't leaned on Wang Sheng's arms so comfortably for a long time, and their faces were full of happiness. It wasn't until the maidservant gently knocked on the door and reminded them that it was time to eat that the three of them reluctantly separated. By the way, Duke, where did those things that you asked the Laojun Temple to send over come from? During the meal, there were no outsiders, so Mayer carefully asked Wang Sheng. She didn't dare to say that it was gold, but used those things to refer to it. When she first received it, Mayer looked confused. What was going on with hundreds of storage rings? But the Qing generation senior from the Laojun Temple said to be careful to keep it secret, so Mayer didn't open it in front of others. She only looked at it secretly with Rosa. When she casually opened a storage ring, it was all filled to the brim with gold. All kinds of gold products made the two women dumbfounded. If it was only in one storage ring, it wouldn't be a big deal. But in hundreds of storage rings, all of them were like this, adding up to hundreds of thousands of kilograms, the value of at least hundreds of millions of gold coins. In a few storage rings, there were all kinds of gems, demonic beast fur, and jewelry, which also surprised the two women. As for a batch of weapons that didn't look like much, the two women directly ignored it. Even though Mayer and Rosa were people who had seen a lot of money, they were still shocked to see so much gold sent at once. Did Wang Sheng rob someplace? How could there be so much gold? Would there be serious consequences? With these worries, before they asked Wang Sheng clearly, the two women didn't dare to reveal anything, let alone take out the gold. They were on tenterhooks all day, worried about Wang Sheng, who was far away in the ground of thousand devastations. Now that they were finally able to see Wang Sheng's figure and feel his sturdy body, the two women were finally able to put their minds at ease. Don't worry about some of the things we got from the core of the ground of thousand devastations. Wang Sheng explained to Mayer with a smile. Send that batch of leather directly to the Dream Workshop to make protective clothing. Keep the jewelry and weapons. You can sell them for a good price. As for the gold, I'll visit Pavilion Master Ling Long and see if she can help me make a batch of gold coins. Chapter 1018. All the gold coins in the world were produced by the Pavilion of Delicacy. Every family owned a gold mine, but if they wanted to turn the mine gold into gold coins, they had to go to the Pavilion of Delicacy and pay them 10% of the cost of making the coins. This was a secret that only the higher-ups of the big families knew. Wang Sheng only found out about the terror of the Pavilion of Delicacy from the emperor by chance. An organization that possessed 10% of the world's wealth could kill people with just gold coins. Therefore, Wang Sheng had always respected the Pavilion of Delicacy. Of course, Wang Sheng didn't care about the so-called master of the Pavilion of Delicacy. Obviously, it was just a puppet of the real Pavilion of Delicacy. The identity of the real master of the Pavilion of Delicacy was definitely not simple. Quick, tell us what happened. Mayer and Rose's curiosity had been raised to the highest level since they were able to obtain such a huge treasure from the core of the place of Thousand Despair. They couldn't wait to find out what happened from Wang Sheng's mouth. They didn't want to waste even a second. This matter has to start from when the Shi family and the Gan family looked for me to cooperate. Since he had already obtained the treasure, Wang Sheng wasn't afraid of what the Shi family and the Gan family would think. In front of his own women, Wang Sheng also didn't have the obligation to keep secrets for them. He slowly began to tell the story while eating. Wang Sheng didn't finish his story until the end of the meal. Of course, if Wang Sheng's story was seen by some teachers, they would definitely teach him a lesson about not talking while eating and not talking while sleeping. However, Wang Sheng didn't care about that. When they returned to the bedroom, the two women didn't let the maids come near them. They endured their shyness and personally helped Wang Sheng bathe and change his clothes. Wang Sheng was talking about the most exciting part and couldn't let others hear it. Anyway, the two women were already close enough to Wang Sheng. Needless to say, Rosa had already performed the ceremony. Even Mayor didn't mind seeing Wang Sheng naked. Although it was said that they were going to serve Wang Sheng as he bathed, wasn't it the same for the two women? Of course, Wang Sheng didn't stop talking throughout the journey. He continued to narrate what had happened in the land of Thousand Despair. How he reached an agreement with the two clans, how the two clans didn't find anything after entering for more than a year, how he used the demon beasts he had tamed to find the exact location, how he divided the spoils, and what he had found. The two women, one on the left and one on the right, leaned against the headboard of the big bed with Wang Sheng. When they heard the exciting part, they couldn't help but exclaim, "More than 12,000 scrolls!" Mayer and Rosa, of course, knew what the truly precious things inside were. When they heard the number of scrolls, they immediately gasped. They didn't fight on the spot. Mayer was shocked by the number of scrolls. Rosa had seen many instances of unequal distribution of loot in Worry-Free City, so she couldn't help but ask. They wouldn't dare. Wang Sheng smiled as he hugged the two women's soft bodies and continued his story. His tone was incomparably confident. The two women were influenced by Wang Sheng's confidence and became more and more infatuated with him. They leaned closer and closer to Wang Sheng. If the two women were to ponder on it themselves, they probably wouldn't be able to come up with a solution that would satisfy all three parties. This was what Mayer was most curious about. How could he make all three parties speechless? When Wang Sheng revealed his solution, even someone as shrewd as Mayer couldn't help but praise Wang Sheng's solution. The one who divided the scrolls couldn't be chosen first, and the one who chose first couldn't be divided. This was indeed a way to make all three parties feel that they were at a disadvantage. However, it would be a problem to decide who would be the first and who would be the last. Thus, the Sher clan paid a huge sum of 10% of their gold just for the right to be chosen first. This caused the two women to gasp in surprise. Wang Sheng only brought back 25% of the gold. To pay a tenth of it just for the right to be chosen first. He really didn't treat gold as gold. These great dukes are really rich, Mayer said with a hint of jealousy. She had worked so hard to run her business, but she could only earn a few 100 million gold coins a year. These great dukes could casually take out a few 100 million gold coins without batting an eyelid. It was really enviable. However, if Mayer's thoughts were spread, she was afraid that it would attract even more criticism. If even the Qianshang Yuan, Runzi Workshop, and Dream Workshop earned hard-earned money, would other people still have a way out? The two women's eyes lit up when they heard Wang Sheng explain to the two families why he wanted the leather weapons and jewelry. The leather was easy to understand, but they didn't expect that those tattered weapons could be sold for such a high price in this way. The Duke was indeed capable of doing what others couldn't. At the thought of another windfall falling in her lap, Mayer was so happy that she couldn't control herself. With a smack, she gave Wang Sheng a big kiss on the cheek before curling up in Wang Sheng's arms like a little kitten. Rosa was more gentle and quiet. However, on the other side, where Mayer couldn't see, Rosa had already secretly grabbed Wang Sheng's hand and slipped it in her clothes, allowing Wang Sheng's large hand to slide across her delicate skin. When the moon was at its zenith, Wang Sheng finally finished recounting his experiences in the land of 1,000 extremities. Apart from the time when he and the old Taoist had so much fun skydiving, he basically told them everything. Those two families really got lucky. Mayer vented a little indignantly. If it wasn't for Wang Sheng, the two families probably wouldn't have gotten anything. Wang Sheng was such a crucial figure, yet he only got 25% of the treasures. It was a huge loss. That's because the Duke is kind and didn't take advantage of the situation. Rosa added. She explained to Mayer on behalf of Wang Sheng. If the Duke hadn't been willing to give in, a big fight would have broken out. They took advantage of our family anyway. No matter what, we have to make them pay for that map. Wang Sheng had already told them about the map of the core of the land of 1,000 extremities. Since they were going to sell it, they would definitely make a huge profit. There's no hurry to take advantage of those two families. Let's take advantage of the Xia family first. Wang Sheng smiled and slowly told them about Aki's involvement with the Xia family. Of course, he didn't forget to tell them about his plan to make the Xia family bleed by the Xia family scheme. I knew they didn't have good intentions when they gave you beauties. Mayer was even more furious when she heard this. Even though she didn't like Aki, she hated the Xia family even more for plotting against Wang Sheng. I'll place a bounty tomorrow. If they don't pay 100 million gold coins for this map, they won't be able to get the upper hand. The two girls talked back and forth for a long time before they slowly calmed down. Now, they just had to wait for the news from Aki to spread and for the Xia family to come knocking on their door. During my time in the land of 1,000 extremities, did Bao Qing Yutang make any new moves in the land of 1,000 extremities? Wang Sheng finished his story and began to ask about the recent movements of Bao Qing Yutang. Chapter 1019. It's no longer called Shanhua Land, but Shanhua Kingdom. Mayer's face darkened slightly when she heard Wang Sheng mention Bao Qing Yutang and Shanhua Land. However, she quickly recovered and corrected Wang Sheng's ignorance. Did the emperor give him face and agree to infef and establish a kingdom? Wang Sheng asked in surprise. No, Mayer shook her head and said, however, everyone has recognized them as Shanhua Kingdom, not Bao Qing Yutang and the barbarians of Shanhua Land. Wang Sheng didn't wait for Mayer to explain in detail. He understood Mayer's meaning after pondering for a while. Every country in Bao Qing Yutang didn't gain much advantage when they fought with each other. If they stubbornly refused to admit that they were a country and only recognized them as a chain company, Bao Qing Yutang, they wouldn't be able to afford to lose face. Therefore, they might as well admit that they were Shanhua Kingdom. Because of face? Despite his speculation, Wang Sheng still asked. That seems to be the case. Mayer smiled bitterly. Wasn't that the mentality of every country? In a land of 1,000 to spare, they definitely couldn't gain any advantage. Could it be that the other countries were defeated? Wang Sheng became more curious and asked. Anyway, the situation isn't good. Mayer didn't say it in detail, but a bad situation could explain a lot of problems. Qiu Kingdom and Xia Kingdom are in a terrible situation. People of Shanhua Kingdom don't address old owner Zhu as their king now. It's said that they call him Oracle. This was said by Rosa. Mayer didn't want to say something, so she let Rosa say it. After all, Mayer had a good relationship with old owner Zhu of Bao Qing Yutang. It was understandable that she didn't want to talk bad about him. Wang Sheng didn't mind. He just wanted to know the current situation. No wonder. At first, Wang Sheng was wondering how the two great feudal vassals could not suppress Bao Qing Yutang with their combined strength. However, he understood everything when he heard the title Divine Envoy. Zhu Xingxing was using religious methods to control these barbarians. Those barbarians were simple-minded, but their physical conditions were particularly outstanding. They could cultivate hundreds of legendary experts even if they cultivated common techniques. In addition to being hypnotized by Zhu Xingxing's religion, it could be said that it was even stronger. Under the same circumstances, a normal warrior might not even be able to fight against a madman who had been hypnotized by religion, let alone the entire Shanhua Kingdom. Back on Earth, the soldiers who were hypnotized by the boxers dared to shout slogans and charge towards the machine gun positions. In this world, be it Qiu Kingdom or Xia Kingdom, there was no such thing as a machine gun. If tens of thousands of madmen rushed forward with red eyes, even a peak legendary expert would be afraid. These fellows weren't afraid of death at all. Each of their moves was designed to take you down with them. How could a normal expert withstand this? Unless they were forced to the point where their country was destroyed, which expert would be willing to risk his life to fight against madmen? It wasn't hard to imagine that they would be at a disadvantage in the next few months. I see. Wang Sheng gently touched Rosa's waist and asked, how bad is the situation now? More than 10 cities in Qiu Kingdom were attacked by experts from Shanhua Kingdom, and they suffered heavy losses, Mayer answered. Shanhua Kingdom now has flying mounts, and it's impossible to defend against them. As long as there aren't many experts stationed in each city, they will definitely be attacked. It's useless to defend against them. For the current countries, flying mounts were like stealth bombers. They could enter the airspace of each country as if there was no one there. To put it bluntly, they could land wherever they wanted. Wasn't this equivalent to the Gulf War when the U.S. attacked Iraq? Without air supremacy, they could do whatever they wanted. Zhu Xingxing was really insightful to be able to see such a future for flying mounts. No one knew how many gold coins he invested and how many years he spent to accumulate a team of flying mounts. This matter was so secretive that even Meyer, who was in charge of Baoqing Yutang at the time, didn't know about it. It was obvious how scheming he was. Unfortunately, Zhu Xingxing's only shortcoming was that he didn't educate his son well. He was a cunning old man, but Zhu Xiaodong was actually an idiot. There must be scouts from Baoqing Yutang in those cities that were attacked. Wang Sheng made a firm judgment. Otherwise, they wouldn't know which city has more experts and which has fewer. That's for sure. Meyer also agreed. Back then, Baoqing Yutang was a big business with branches all over the world. It was easy to plant a few spies. Were the cities badly damaged? Wang Sheng asked. Did they kill only the Qiu family or the entire city? At first, they only killed the experts of the Qiu family who resisted. Speaking of this, Meyer's expression turned ugly. But after they were ambushed once, they started to kill those people regardless of their status. Once the time was up, they would leave on flying mounts. Counting all the time, the Qiu kingdom has lost thousands of people. Wang Sheng wasn't surprised. This method of relying on a cult to control its followers would eventually lead to the extreme, killing the innocent and becoming a hated terrorist. The Qiu family was busy dealing with these sneaky attacks and had already given up on the dozens of cities that had been attacked. Finally, they had enough manpower to defend their territory. Meyer continued, but that's all. The Qiu kingdom and Shangyue kingdom were separated by a few countries, so they couldn't attack Shangyue at all. They couldn't even fend for themselves. Wang Sheng could totally imagine how much trouble the Qiu kingdom was in right now. They couldn't attack, and they couldn't defend either. The Qiu kingdom's king must be having a headache right now. Serve them right. Wang Sheng cursed inwardly. They also deserve it. Next to him, Meyer seemed to have a telepathic connection with Wang Sheng. She also said that they deserved it. If they hadn't schemed against the Duke, would they have ended up like this? Serves them right. The most direct hatred between Baoqing Yutang and the Qiu kingdom was because the Qiu kingdom's elder had instigated Zhu Xiaodong to find trouble with Wang Sheng in Tongxing City, trying to force Wang Sheng to agree to cooperate. In the end, because of Zhu Xiaodong's poor performance, Wang Sheng was furious and transferred the business with Baoqing Yutang to the imperial treasury. Later, although it was rumored that the old master had killed Zhu Xiaodong, that was just a rumor. However, the hatred between Baoqing Yutang and the Qiu kingdom started at that time. Thinking of this, Meyer gnashed her teeth in hatred. Both sides were related to her. Originally, she had completed more than half of the matchmaking, but it was completely destroyed by the Qiu family. Meyer had never had a good impression of the Qiu family. She hoped that the Qiu family would be unlucky. What about the Xia family? Wang Sheng pondered for a while and felt that something was wrong, but he didn't pay much attention to it. Chapter 10:20. The Xia family was the type that courted their own death. Initially, they thought that as a vassal state, they would be able to control Baoqing Yutang. They wanted to help Baoqing Yutang transfer his assets, and at the same time, get Baoqing Yutang to help them conquer the Shangyue land. It was a beautiful plan, but unfortunately, Baoqing Yutang was a cunning old fox. Not only did he borrow the power of the Xia family to secretly disappear from various places and successfully escape to the Shangyue land, he even dealt a heavy blow to the Xia family. In the trap that Wang Sheng set in the Shangyue land, the Xia family suffered the most casualties. There were hundreds of experts of various levels, which made them feel so heartbroken that they wanted to vomit blood. The Xia family is even worse off. Speaking of the Xia family, Meyer was not as polite. Everyone is blaming them for helping Baoqing Yutang. They even want them to take responsibility for the casualties of their families. Just this alone was enough to put the Xia family in a terrible situation. In the land of Yushan, all sides had lost hundreds of experts, and it was all because the Xia family had supported Bao Qin Yuhao. How could they not resent this? It's already a headache to deal with all the other parties, but they're still the main target of the Shan kingdom. Mayer continued, they have the largest border area with the Shan kingdom, so their hatred is also the greatest. The cities of the Xia kingdom have been attacked by the Shan kingdom time and time again. Didn't the Xia family send experts to the Shan land for revenge? Wang Sheng asked in surprise. The Qiu kingdom is not close enough to the Shan land, but the Xia kingdom will not. It is said that they sent many people, but only a few returned. Mayer seemed to be venting her anger at this moment. She said with a smile, the Xia kingdom does not admit this, but they did send a group of experts who never returned. The Xia country's explanation was that those experts had entered the grounds of despair to train. Wang Sheng recalled his experience of almost being surrounded by dumplings last time. He suddenly realized that if the Xia family sent people into the mountains, they would be discovered as soon as they entered. Then they would be surrounded and killed silently. These barbarians had been living in the Yu Mountain for several decades. No matter who they were, if they didn't take a bath to get rid of the special smell on their bodies after entering the Yu Mountain, it would be very obvious to the barbarian experts that someone had entered. Unfortunately, after Wang Sheng's training in the land of 1,000 despair, which expert would dare to casually find a river to bathe in the forest? If Wang Sheng did not divulge this secret, it was estimated that any expert who entered would suffer a great loss. Perhaps this secret could be sold to the Xia family and the Qiu family at a high price. As long as they killed a few more barbarian experts, it would also weaken Zhu Xingxing's strength. Puffing yourself up at your own cost. Wang Sheng sneered and gave his evaluation. That's right. Mayer also laughed when she heard this evaluation. In addition, the Xia family also suffered heavy losses when the Shan country attacked and occupied the southernmost Ningyue city. What do you mean? Is there something wrong with this Ningyue city? When talking about this matter, Mayer's tone was completely gloating. This made Wang Sheng realize that there must be a hidden meaning in this matter. He could not help but ask. The name Ningyue City was originally a beautiful wish of the Xia family. They wanted to pacify the Yu Mountain. Mayer smiled and explained, however, after the attack on the Yu Mountain failed, the Xia family realized that the Yu Mountain could not threaten the Xia family. Therefore, they built this Ningyue City at the southernmost part of the Xia family's territory. The north is the territory of the Xia family, while the south is the Yu Mountain. Neither side will be a threat to Ningyue City. Therefore, the Xia family regarded Ningyue City as their safest warehouse. When Mayer said this, she was overjoyed. There are a lot of resources stored in the city. They are kept as a backup plan. Once a strong enemy offends them, the Xia family can retreat to Ningyue City calmly. The idea is good, and the wish is good. In addition, Ningyue City's terrain is dangerous. It is easy to defend and difficult to attack. The Xia family really poured their heart and soul into it. The more Mayer spoke, the more excited she became. If the ordinary people want to attack, they will not be able to take Ningyue City without paying a price that is several times or dozens of times more than the experts guarding the city. But they did not expect the experts of the Shan country to be able to fly, right? Wang Sheng replaced Mayer and said what she wanted to say. That's right, Mayer replied with a smile. They were not prepared. Before they had time to transfer the resources in the city, the experts of the Shan country fell from the sky. They were all killed in the city with their things. Didn't the Xia family want to take it back? Wang Sheng also felt that his anger was vented, but he did not forget to continue to ask. Such an important place was taken away. No matter what, they have to take it back, right? With the number of experts of the Xia family, how can they not take it back? They can't fly. Mayer curled her lips. Normally, they have to pay a price that is several times more than the number of people they have. Moreover, once they take action here, the flying experts of the Shan country can land in other cities and start a massacre. They can't spare people to take back Ningyue City now. This was the tragedy of having no air superiority. People could go wherever they wanted, as if there was no one there, but they could only watch the sky carefully every day. This was the tragedy of the Xia country. Even if they were willing to pay the price of several times the number of people to take back Ningyu City, as long as they mobilized experts to attack, other cities would suffer. They could only watch Ningyu City fall into the hands of the Shanyu country. There was nothing they could do. With the resources of Ningyu City, it was estimated that it would be easier for Zhu Xingxing to control those barbarians. The Xia kingdom had suffered a double loss. A single mistake had resulted in such an outcome. It was unknown whether the king of the Xia country regretted his decision at that time. What about the casualties of the Shanyu country? Wang Sheng knew the situation of the Qiu family and the Xia family, but he did not forget to inquire about the situation of the Shanyu country. They also lost a lot, but compared to the Xia country and the Qiu country, it is not worth mentioning. Mayer had a rough idea. It was not very accurate, but it was obviously not in the same order of magnitude. The Shanyu country is very smart. They only focus on the Xia country and the Qiu country. As long as the other countries do not enter the Shanyu country, they will not touch them at all. As long as the other countries do not enter the Shanyu country, they will not touch them at all, so they do not make many enemies. Mayer knew that Wang Sheng wanted more details, so the Shanyu country's analysis was very accurate. With the example of the Xia country and the Qiu country, the other vassal states do not dare to provoke them easily, lest their people are slaughtered. The children who died in the past are considered to have suffered in silence. For the time being, they do not have the time to settle the score. They're all watching. Wang Sheng basically understood the situation and began to ponder. Wang Sheng did not speak, and neither did the two women. They just quietly leaned against Wang Sheng. Mayer, Rosa, do you believe that Baoqin Yutang only used a few years to control all the barbarians in the Shanyu country? After pondering for a while, Wang Sheng asked the two women, how can there be so many legendary masters in a few years? Even if they have cultivation methods, they still need to be literate and know the concept of cultivation methods. Is it so easy for a group of barbarians to master such basic knowledge? Chapter 10:21. Obviously, this wasn't normal at all. However, during this period of time, no one had thought about this problem from this angle. Perhaps the vassal states and the emperor must have thought about it, but they wouldn't easily tell others what conclusion they came to. Duke, now that you mention it, it does seem a little strange. Mei-er revealed a pondering expression. After a while, she said, logically speaking, my adoptive father is only in his 50s. A few years ago, he asked me to take over Baoqin Yutang, and I rarely get to see him. Could it be that my adoptive father has been planning this since a long time ago? It wasn't impossible. If the timeline was pulled back to a decade or even a few decades ago, then everything would make sense. There's no need to think too much. Wang Sheng stopped Mei-er from thinking further. What he plans, it has nothing to do with us. All you need to know is that he's our enemy now. Yes, Mei-er was still a little reluctant to part with Zhu Xingxing, but with the current situation, it was impossible for both sides to reconcile. They could only wait and see how things develop. Since the afternoon, Wang Sheng had been talking nonstop. He talked all the way until the latter half of the night. The three of them were tired, so they laid down on the big bed in the bedroom. The two women snuggled up to Wang Sheng and fell asleep. Wang Sheng was fine, but the two girls slept peacefully. In the morning, after Wang Sheng and the two women had breakfast, he instructed Mei-er, spread the news that I've just returned from the core of the land of Thousand Despair and will need to rest for a period of time. Mei-er agreed and signaled to the maid outside with her eyes. The maid at the door turned around and went to make arrangements. Now we just need to wait for the Xia family and the Qiu family to come. When Wang Sheng saw this, he smiled and continued, Mei-er, get ready to sharpen your knife. Let's slaughter those two families ruthlessly. They will definitely come? Mei-er is a little puzzled. If the Xia family knows the message sent by Aki, it is possible that the Qiu family will also come. Me, Aki, and the old Taoist were the only three survivors from the land of Yu. Wang Sheng continued to smile. Don't the Chiu and Xia family want to know how we escaped from those flying mounts? Other than these two families, the other families will definitely want to know as well. All right, then I'll be waiting. Mayor stretched out her hand as if she was sharpening a knife. I'll make whoever comes knocking on my door bleed. The happy atmosphere of Duke Chongqing's mansion had actually begun since Wang Sheng came back yesterday. Until Mayor and Rosa left to manage the business, the happiness on the two women's faces could be seen at a glance. In the Duke's mansion, after Wang Sheng had calmly cultivated for a while, Steward Wang came to report that Chief Steward Li had come to pay a visit to the Duke. Congratulations, old Li. As soon as he saw Chief Steward Li, Wang Sheng instinctively felt that Chief Steward Li's aura was different. Based on Wang Sheng's experience playing around with heavy snow in the inner circle of Thousand Despair, he could almost instantly tell that Chief Steward Li's cultivation should have improved greatly. Thank you, thank you. Chief Steward Li's old face was smiling like a flower, and he cupped his hands in greeting to Wang Sheng. They were not people who needed to be courteous, so Wang Sheng directly invited them to the training room to receive them. On one hand, it seemed easygoing, and on the other hand, it made them feel close. After Steward Wang served tea, he left obediently, leaving the space for Wang Sheng and Chief Steward Li. Old Li, you should be at the level of the old consecrator from last time, right? Wang Sheng did not stand on ceremony, and directly pointed out Chief Steward Li's current cultivation realm. Old Zhou and Old Shin are about the same level now. They're about the same. It's all thanks to the Duke that I was able to enter and was even saved by the Duke. Chief Steward Li did not hide his gratitude to Wang Sheng at all. It's indeed different to walk between life and death. That's great. Wang Sheng smiled. The capital city is as safe as a rock now. I don't have to worry about someone taking my life from the sky that day. With these three experts at the level of old monsters, if Baoqing Yutang's men dare to come to the capital city, they would definitely be courting death. After some small talk, Chief Steward Li finally explained the purpose of his visit. He did not stand on ceremony with Wang Sheng and did not beat around the bush. He directly asked Wang Sheng, the Gan family, and the Sure family what they were doing in the inner circle of Thousand Despair. I can't say. Wang Sheng answered very directly. Seeing that Chief Steward Li wanted to say something, Wang Sheng raised his hand to stop him. This is a three-way cooperation. I have the obligation to keep this a secret if the other two are unwilling to reveal it. This is my principle. Since Wang Sheng had already mentioned his principle, Chief Steward Li naturally could not continue to ask, nor could he use threats or promises. This person in front of him was terrifying when he became ruthless. Although Chief Steward Li's cultivation was at the level of an old monster, he still felt a little anxious when facing Wang Sheng. However, just because I don't say it doesn't mean that you can't see it. Wang Sheng did not want to offend anyone, so he immediately said, "You should be able to see something from what I will do next. However, how much you can see will be up to you. Thank you for your guidance, Duke." If Chief Steward Li could not even understand this hint, then he did not need to stay in the palace anymore. This was no different from telling Chief Steward Li directly. It was just a little later. For the royal family, this amount of time was completely negligible. Moreover, Wang Sheng's words made people feel that cooperating with Wang Sheng was a very safe thing to do. Wang Sheng was very particular about how he did things. In the future, when they looked for him to cooperate, they would not have to worry about being betrayed. Duke, if you have anything in the future, please don't be shy. Chief Steward Li represented the emperor and expressed his gratitude to Wang Sheng. At the same time, he also expressed his own attitude. In the capital, as long as Wang Sheng did not do anything stupid, with Wang Sheng's business partnership with the royal family, plus Mayer, the emperor would definitely be willing to stand behind Wang Sheng and support him. Chief Steward Li was also expressing his goodwill. Without Duke, even the performances at the Royal Theater have lost a lot of their luster. This was Chief Steward Li's casual chat with Wang Sheng after he calmed down. Those grandmasters do not perform easily. At most, it is the Royal Symphony Orchestra. Recently, even those students have the opportunity to perform on stage. Everyone is waiting anxiously for Duke to come back and hold a Grandmaster concert. Well said, well said. Wait for me to go to the academy to see what the situation is like. If it is possible, we will hold one in the near future. Wang Sheng knew that this was the pride of those Grandmasters. Other than Wang Sheng, no one else had the face to invite them. Moreover, after being away for so long, Wang Sheng did miss the Grandmaster's music. Thank you, Duke. Chief Steward Li did not even mention how many tickets the royal family would reserve and directly thanked him. In any case, to the royal family, this was a favorable position. Moreover, using the name of this concert, there would definitely be important people coming to the capital. Whether it was to find Wang Sheng or to attend the concert, it would increase the influence of the capital. Chapter 10:22. On the afternoon of the second day, after Wang Sheng returned to the capital, Wang Sheng went out for a stroll at the Royal Academy of Arts. That night, a piece of exciting good news came out. In half a month, the Royal Grand Theatre would once again stage a concert featuring all the great masters. The ticket price was 100,000 gold coins per person. The tickets would be on sale in the near future. It was said that when Wang Sheng returned, those great masters stopped their lessons and directly moved into Duke Chongqing's mansion with Wang Sheng. Others might not know, but the musicians of the Royal Symphony Orchestra knew very well that in the small theater of Duke Chongqing's mansion, there would probably be people playing every day for a period of time. When they really reached the level of great masters in playing musical instruments like Master Yu and the others, there really wasn't much in this world that could tempt them except for the pursuit of art, especially when they could casually earn hundreds of millions of gold coins with a performance. They didn't have to worry about food or clothing, and they were so free that they could only pursue a higher level of artistic expression. As for cultivation, to put it bluntly, as long as they kept pursuing their own performance, cultivation was actually just a daily life. They didn't have to worry about the realm. Their music could make the audience advance. So what was difficult for them? Every time they performed, the spirit chi body tempering was not only beneficial to the audience. How could the great guru musicians, who harmoniously balanced the huge mass of spiritual chi, reap fewer benefits? Even a fool would know that it was impossible. From the aura of the golden hairpin, Wang Sheng and old Taoist Ling Su realized that real masters had perfectly integrated life and cultivation. However, they had never realized that these great master musicians had actually done this perfectly before they reached the legendary realm. In fact, even these great masters themselves didn't realize that they had already reached such a realm. In this world, if Wang Sheng hadn't completely refined the charm of music, these great masters would probably still be living in seclusion in their own little worlds, not caring about the world, just like Master Yu and the others. The news of the concert spread faster than the situation in Shanghai State. In the middle of the night, it had spread to all the countries in the world. No vassal kingdom would complain about having too many experts in their kingdom. When they received the news, they immediately arranged for people to rush to the capital. Even the Qiu kingdom and the Xia kingdom, which were locked in a fierce battle with the Shanghai kingdom, did the same. No matter how difficult the battle was, they still wanted to send a group of experts to the capital to listen to the concert and make breakthroughs. Of course, Qiugua and Xiagua also had other purposes. They originally planned to leave in 1 or 2 days. They just happened to be in time for the news of the concert, so they could go together. This way, they wouldn't have to find an excuse to cover up their purpose. When they visited Wang Sheng, they could just use the simple excuse of asking for tickets to the concert. Obviously, this time, Bao Qing Yutang would not have the chance to cultivate his own experts. Another person who felt slightly regretful was the carefree city lord. Because of that damnable Uncle Li, he had a tacit understanding with Wang Sheng. But now, they had become estranged. If he wanted to go to Beijing, he would definitely be able to get a ticket from Wang Sheng. However, if he wanted to get special treatment from Wang Sheng, he might not have the chance. In the evening, in the small theater of the Chongsheng Duke Mansion, those great masters who hadn't been evaluated for a long time finally had a good time. If one didn't return to one's hometown after getting rich, it would be like walking at night in luxurious clothes. Even if one's performance had improved, there wouldn't be many people who could appreciate it. Their hearts were full of grievances. Ordinary people didn't have the chance to listen to the great master's performance. Only those students in the advanced class had the chance to receive their guidance. If they wanted to listen to the great master's performance, except for the concert, even those students didn't have the chance. The only chance they had was in the small theater of the Changshan Duke Mansion. Because of Wang Sheng's abnormal ears, because only Wang Sheng could hear the flaws in their performance, and at the same time, he could point out the beauty of their performance. This was because only Wang Sheng could say towering mountains, watery water, and understand what they were trying to express in their music. This was something that even Master Yu and the other great masters, who were friends with other musical instruments, might not be able to do. Basically, those who could become their friends could satisfy one or two of these requirements. However, only Wang Sheng could satisfy all of them. In the past few months, because of their previous performance experience, the great master's performance skills had improved qualitatively with the piano, violin, and other new musical instruments. In particular, according to the characteristics of the new musical instruments and the music, they had composed a new batch of songs based on the instruments they were good at. During the communication among the great masters, everyone had already performed and modified it according to the opinions of all parties. Now, they just had to wait for Wang Sheng's ears to listen to it once and give the final conclusion. It couldn't be helped. In the eyes of the great masters, Wang Sheng was an appraiser great master with the ultimate ability to appraise. Even if it was a small theater performance, it wasn't just the great masters performing alone, but the whole band cooperating. It was just that the other great masters were willing to be the supporting characters and accompany their old friends. The audience consisted of Wang Sheng, Mayor, Rosa, a few old Taoist members of the Qing generation who were stationed at Duke Chongqing's mansion, and a dozen carefully selected guards. It was a small-scale performance, and Wang Sheng didn't want to make too much noise, so he chose guards who wouldn't be promoted immediately but had good comprehension. These guards were lucky. Others didn't have such an opportunity easily, which made them more loyal to Wang Sheng. The group of great masters played the new songs they had composed in the past few months one by one in order. Then, it was Wang Sheng's appraisal. After everyone performed, they looked at Wang Sheng eagerly, waiting for Wang Sheng to say his opinion so that they could have a more comprehensive and intuitive understanding. A great master was indeed a great master. Even if it was a new song, it could still drive the rhythm of cultivation. At the very least, Wang Sheng didn't expend any effort to cultivate the 6-word formula under this rhythm. Naturally, Wang Sheng wouldn't just focus on cultivation. Wang Sheng's monstrous ears allowed him to hear the changes in every note, as well as the mood of every piece of music. In this world, perhaps only those who were old enough and had seen enough of the world could fully understand these things. However, for Wang Sheng, who came from Earth in the era of the internet explosion, Wang Sheng had heard of all kinds of strange things and seen them all. There were very few things that he couldn't understand. Therefore, when Wang Sheng opened his mouth and accurately said the mood and feelings that every new song wanted to express, the great masters who were listening and commenting were all indescribably excited. They felt that every sentence was right at the bottom of their hearts. A soulmate. Chapter 10:23. In addition to listening, Wang Sheng also had a comment on it. These great masters were very excited. As soon as Wang Sheng pointed out some flaws, they would immediately pick up their musical instruments and play a part. Because of this, listening to 5 to 8 pieces of music in one night was basically the limit. Although they were obsessed with musical instruments and performance, these great masters were not unreasonable people. They were usually too lazy to pay attention to these things for those ordinary people. But Wang Sheng was different. He was a great master appraiser, an elegant musician. How could he be too rude? Didn't they see that Madame Mayor and Madame Rosa were always following Duke Chongqing? Seeing that it was almost time, these great masters immediately took the initiative to end. They must not bring so many big light bulbs to annoy the two madams. Anyway, they had plenty of time. During this period, They would live in the Duke's mansion. They had time every day, so there was no need to rush. At night, in the bedroom, it was still Wang Sheng, Mayer, and Rosa. Rosa was very good at conducting herself. She usually put herself in the right position and coaxed Mayer. Even at this time of sleeping, Mayer did not forget to pull Rosa. Rosa, how is the cultivation of his sisters in the Prince Yu's mansion? Wang Sheng had been away for a few months, so he did not know the situation in the mansion. Everything depended on the reports of Mayer, Rosa, and Steward Wang. As for the cultivation of the women in the Prince Yu's mansion, he could only ask Rosa. The sisters have already crossed the hurdle of the Yongchun cultivation method, and their cultivation speed is very fast. Rosa replied quickly, "They are all cultivating from the beginning, so it is relatively easy. It is almost time for a large-scale breakthrough. Let everyone be prepared. This time, the performance of the great masters is a good opportunity." Wang Sheng felt that the cultivation of the women was almost time for a breakthrough, so he directly asked Rosa to let everyone get ready. This time, the 600 seats would probably be gone. However, no one would object to this. Without Wang Sheng, they wouldn't even have the remaining 400 seats. Of course, Wang Sheng wouldn't go so overboard that no one would have a chance. Therefore, he turned to Mayer and said, "Mayer, come with me to the Laojun Temple tomorrow to visit the Grand Abbess. At the same time, let's bring along the people from the Lao Zhongwen and have a concert in advance." Hearing that she and Rosa were going to visit the Grand Abbey Dean, Mayer immediately perked up. This was equivalent to Wang Sheng bringing him back to the main family. It was absolutely placing Mayer in the position of the main wife. Even Rosa was happy. The Grand Abbey Dean and ancestor Ling, she nodded. She was the only legitimate wife of Wang Sheng other than Mayer. That assassin Aki didn't have this treatment. The Son of Heaven. Hearing Wang Sheng's instructions, Mayer was very happy, but she immediately thought of her biological father and couldn't help but hesitate. She tried to help them ask for some benefits. "Do you want to do it as well?" Ask Old Wang to inform Steward Zhou tomorrow to let the Son of Heaven prepare 100 people. Wang Sheng was in the capital, so he was naturally willing to build a good relationship with the local snake, the Son of Heaven. In addition, because of Mayer, he had to give this face no matter what. After thinking about it, Wang Sheng added, "You can also pick out 100 people among the guards who are about to break through and participate together." Most of the guards in Wang Sheng's mansion were now disciples of the Laojun Temple, as well as some loyal guards that Mayer had taken in before. Among these people, those who were about to break through had to be carefully trained. They were the most reliable team in the future. There were 600 women in the Wang residence, 100 people from the Son of Heaven, 100 people from the guards, and 200 people left. Wang Sheng didn't stand on ceremony and directly gave them all to the Laojun Temple. Anyway, the stronger the Laojun Temple was, the safer Wang Sheng was. Early in the morning, Steward Wang received orders from Madame Mayer and happily went to the royal family to do a favor. After Wang Sheng and the two women had breakfast and cultivated once, he brought a few Qing generation old Taoists and more than 10 guards out of the city and went straight to the Laojun Temple in the suburbs of the capital. When they arrived at the Laojun Temple, the Grand Abbey Dean was already waiting at the entrance. This was giving enough face to Wang Sheng, which made Wang Sheng feel a little flattered. One must know that after the Grand Abbey Dean attended the concert, he had a breakthrough again. He had broken through the peak of the legendary realm and entered the 10th stage. This was also the second expert that Wang Sheng had seen who entered the 10th stage without entering the core of the land of 1,000 extremes and feeling the rich spiritual energy there. The first was old Taoist Ling Su, and both of them were from the Laojun Temple. It must be said that the cultivation of the Laojun Temple to the extreme, coupled with pure Taoist techniques, was faster than those guys who fought and killed when they had nothing better to do. The three great consecrators of the royal family had only now cultivated to the level of the old consecrator. In the words of ancestor Ling Su, they were already at the peak of the legendary realm, and if there was an opportunity, they would be able to break through immediately. But after all, they were not really in the 10th stage, and could only be said to be in the 9. 9999999 stage. In this way, the Grand Abbey Dean was definitely the most powerful cultivation genius in a Lao Jun temple after ancestor Ling Su, and his vision was definitely stronger than the three great consecrators. No matter how powerful the three great consecrators were, firstly, they were physically handicapped and might have psychological problems. Secondly, they had been living under others for a long time, so they did not have the all-powerful aura of the Grand Abbey Dean. Therefore, it was understandable that their cultivation could not catch up with the Grand Abbey Dean. Seeing that the Grand Abbey Dean personally came to greet them, the three did not dare to be arrogant and obediently dismounted to pay their respects. The Grand Abbey Dean welcomed the three into the temple, and after encouraging the two women, they took the initiative to find an excuse to burn incense and left with a young Taoist arranged by the Grand Abbey Dean. Only Wang Sheng and the Grand Abbey Dean were left. Speaking of which, this was the first time that Wang Sheng saw the Grand Abbey Dean after his breakthrough. Compared to the last concert, the Grand Abbey Dean seemed more easygoing and amiable, looking like a kind uncle. He did not feel any deterrence or pressure at all, just like an ordinary person. Wang Sheng knew that this was because the Grand Abbey Dean had truly comprehended the realm of his cultivation, which caused the divine light to converge. When Wang Sheng first met the old Taoist Ling Su, the old Taoist looked like an ordinary person, and he could not tell that he was a top master. Now, the Grand Abbey Dean could finally enter this realm. Congratulations, Abbey Dean! When he was alone, Wang Sheng congratulated the Grand Abbey Dean with a smile. The Grand Abbey Dean was also very easygoing and polite, and then asked Wang Sheng's purpose for coming. Two purposes. Wang Sheng did not play any tricks in front of the Grand Abbey Dean, and said straightforwardly, "First, I plan to have a concert in advance, and I left 200 people here at the Lao Jun Temple. As for the others, just wait for the concert in half a month. Second, is there any useful content in those scrolls?" Chapter 1024. This time, the front lines are all our own people. There are no outsiders. Abbey Dean, bring those who need to recuperate. Wang Sheng stated his purpose of bringing the front lines. It was originally for the convenience of our own people. If they need to recuperate, this is the most suitable. The Grand Abbey Dean broke through because of the Grand Master's concert, so of course, he felt it more deeply than anyone else. There was no need for Wang Sheng to emphasize these benefits. He knew it in his heart. By the way, I gave the emperor some face and asked the royal family to add 100 people. Wang Sheng did not forget to mention the royal family to the Grand Abbey Dean. There are about 600 women in the prince's mansion, 100 guards in the mansion, and the rest are all people of our Lao Jun temple. Although it was said to be only 200, in fact, including the guards, it was far more than this number. It's only right. In other people's territory, we have to give them enough face. The Grand Abbey Dean was an expert in dealing with people. He was even more knowledgeable than ordinary people. He only nodded slightly at Wang Sheng's words. He was not at all dissatisfied that Wang Sheng had given the seat that should have belonged to the Lao Jun Abbey to the emperor. Let's go to the Scriptures Tower. The Grand Abbey Dean knew that Wang Sheng wanted to know about the scrolls, so he did not delay. He got up and said to Wang Sheng, and the two went straight to the Scriptures Tower. You really dare to ask for it. When Ancestor Ling Su came back, he must have told the Grand Abbey Dean about the scrolls, so on the way, the Grand Abbey Dean sighed to Wang Sheng. It was passed down from their ancestors, and they dug for more than a year. You just pointed to a place, and you dare to ask for 25% of it. It's really risky. I'm just too lazy to grind with them. Wang Sheng did not feel anything about it. If they grinded a little more, they can get 30%. But people can't be so greedy. We took the best things, and we have to leave some for others. The golden hairpin and the long sword. Ancestor Ling Su had already said that he would mention it to the Grand Abbey Dean. However, it was only limited to the Grand Abbey Dean. Therefore, Wang Sheng was not surprised that the Grand Abbey Dean knew about this. At that time, the old Taoist of the Qing generation rushed back to the Lao Jun temple overnight. The Grand Abbey Dean was shocked, thinking that something had happened in the base in the land of 1,000 devastations. As a result, when the old Taoists took out their storage rings, the Grand Abbey Dean was immediately dumbfounded when he saw a few of them. This batch of things was simply a hot potato. Only after asking carefully did he find out the details. The Grand Hall Master was very impressed by this. Wang Sheng and ancestor Ling Su had actually managed to dig out 25% of the treasures from the peerless treasures of the two families. The Grand Abbey Dean was overjoyed, not to mention the gold. The 25% of the scrolls were enough to make him overjoyed. At first, the Grand Abbey Dean only glanced at the storage rings containing the gold, fur jewelry, and weapons. Later, he didn't even bother to look at them. He directly sent them to Duke Chongqing's residence the next day and handed them over to Mayer. As for the batch of scrolls, the Grand Abbey Dean personally organized a group of old Taoists of the Qing generation to seal the Sutras depository and dispose of them one by one. After all, they were things from 500 years ago. They had been placed in the core inner circle of the land of 1,000 devastations for so many years. He didn't know if the materials would affect them, and if there would be any strange changes after they were opened. Therefore, the Grand Abbey Dean made up his mind and found a group of fast old Taoists to take out a storage ring and open it. Then, he immediately copied down the contents, regardless of whether there would be any changes. No matter what the contents were, even if it was an account book, the old Taoist would write it down quickly. Others might think that the account book was useless, but the Grand Abbey Dean had been in charge of the Grand Supreme Lord Temple for many years. How could he not know how many things could be recorded in the account book that others didn't know? This should be the account book of the world's #1 expert, the Lin family. From it, there must be some records that couldn't be passed down. It was simply a peerless treasure. Even ordinary account books were like this, not to mention those martial arts manuals. Even if it was not suitable for the people of the Grand Supreme Lord Temple to cultivate, they would write it down first. According to the old Taoist, the most powerful cultivation method should have been picked by the Shi family or the Gan family. But it didn't matter. Every family's cultivation method had its own origin. It was impossible to cultivate the most powerful cultivation method right from the start. Just like in the Grand Supreme Lord Temple, the orthodox cultivation method was the Taoist scripture at the end. Even if they couldn't learn the Taoist scripture, they could learn some of the mysteries of the Taoist cultivation method by studying the previous cultivation method. It was the same for the Lin family's secret manuals. The contents of every scroll were copied again. Even if there were pictures, they would be drawn again. When Wang Sheng and the old Taoist Ling Su were playing with heavy snow in the inner circle of the land of 1,000 devastations, the Grand Supreme Lord Temple was heavily guarded. A group of white-bearded old Taoists was copying books day and night. Fortunately, even though these scrolls had been placed in the inner circle of the land of 1,000 devastations for 500 years, no strange changes had happened to them. They didn't turn into ashes when they were opened. But even so, the Grand Abbey Dean didn't dare to relax. He only felt relieved after copying all of them. All of them had been copied again. The original scrolls had been sealed in the storage ring. The Grand Monastery Master personally led Wang Sheng in. No one stopped the two of them from entering. They entered the Sutra depository and went up to the second floor. "You're here." Wang Sheng could already hear the old Taoist Ling Su's heartbeat and breathing from afar. After coming up, the old Taoist looked up at Wang Sheng and greeted him. Then, he continued to bury his head in the pile of scrolls. Coming, Wang Sheng didn't stand on ceremony. He sat opposite the old Taoist and took out 3 bottles of Wuliangye. The old Taoist shook his arm, and a bottle of Wuliangye appeared in his hand. He opened the lid and poured the contents into his mouth. On the other hand, the Grand Master was very polite. He calmly sat at the table and took out 2 wine glasses. Of course, Wang Sheng couldn't imitate the old Taoist in front of the Grand Abbey Dean. He poured 2 glasses for the Grand Abbey Dean and sipped slowly. The Grand Abbey Dean had already drunk fine wine under the inspiration of Wang Sheng. He wouldn't take the initiative to drink now. But if Wang Sheng and the old Taoist wanted to drink, he would drink with them. All these years, you're only at your best when you're drinking. The old Taoist was actually very satisfied with the Grand Abbey Dean, but he didn't let it go with his words. To the old Taoist, drinking was a sign that he had seen through the world and learned the essence of Taoism. The Duke wishes to know about the situation with these scrolls. After accompanying the two of them for a few drinks, the Grand Master smiled and revealed the purpose of Wang Sheng's visit. What Duke? Elder. The old Taoist was very dissatisfied with the way the Grand Abbey Dean addressed Wang Sheng. After correcting him, he took out a thread-bound book and threw it in front of Wang Sheng. These are the catalogs they've sorted out. Take a look and find the original if you're interested. Chapter 1025. At that moment, Wang Sheng felt like he was reading Stephen Chow's The Deer and the Cauldron on Earth. This book was a catalog of supreme martial arts, while the pile of scrolls was the real supreme martial arts. The current situation was like this. This thick book was a catalog of scrolls. Wang Sheng picked the names first before talking about the rest. Ever since Wang Sheng started selling high-quality Xian paper to Qian Xingyuan, many words that needed to be recorded became thread-bound books. This was also Wang Sheng's invention. It was not easy to read with scrolls in hand, so it was more convenient to use a book. This invention was praised by all the scholars in the world. Thread-bound books were light and could record more words than scrolls of the same weight and volume. They were also convenient to read, so they became the best choice for the scholars. In addition, it was also very convenient to use them for bookkeeping, similar to the current catalog. In terms of paper, Qian Xingyuan had made a completely different level. Despite the efforts of the grandmasters, high-quality paper was still in short supply, and the price remained high. However, because ordinary paper could be mass-produced, its price was very affordable. Even ordinary people could afford it. Once large amounts of ordinary paper appeared on the market, it looked like it would replace animal hide scrolls. Previously, Wang Sheng had been bored out of his mind, so he had mentioned the matter of engraving and printing to a master carpenter from the Pavilion of Delicacy. As a result, there were already quite a number of printed books on classics. Although the price was slightly higher, relatively speaking, the average person could still buy 1 or 2 books if they gritted their teeth and didn't eat meat for a few months. This was a sufficient number of books of the same quality and the same language, and it was the appearance of books in the true sense. In short, the appearance of books caused a frenzy of buying that swept the world. In the past, books were in the form of scrolls, and they were all copied one by one. A careless mistake by the person copying a book might be a typo, and the consequences would be all sorts of strange things. There was no such thing in the uniformly printed books. They were all corrected by the Grand Secretary, so there was no need to worry about mistakes at all. The appearance of books almost changed the learning system of the whole kingdom. In some places, the teaching materials for children had become books and were no longer scrolls that were copied by countless people. Now, almost everyone in the world was staring at Qian Xingyuan, waiting for him to come up with something good. The grandmasters of the Linglong Pavilion who had worked with Wang Sheng were all famous pioneers of fine arts. It was unknown how many great grandmasters in the exquisite pavilion were anxiously looking at Duke Chongqing's residence to see if there was an opportunity to cooperate. Wang Sheng took the catalog and immediately knew that it was a blank account book from Qian Xingyuan. There was a vertical grid on it, and it was very convenient to write a table of contents. Putting it on the table, Wang Sheng began to flip through it page by page. The people of the Laojun Temple had organized it in great detail. The table of contents was also categorized. It wasn't the names that Wang Sheng had imagined. After all the scrolls had been copied at least once. It could be said that the person who copied them knew very well what was inside. As long as they finished copying and categorizing them, it would be easy to distinguish them. The final summary was the table of contents in front of Wang Sheng. The table of contents was also very professional. It was obvious that it had been improved after listening to Wang Sheng's complaints. Previously, when Wang Sheng was allowed to read all the books in the scripture depository of the Laojun Temple, Wang Sheng had once shook his head at the seemingly comprehensive but actually messy search methods of the scripture depository. What Wang Sheng was looking at now was the professional table of contents that had been organized according to the method Wang Sheng had pointed out in the past. First, there was a general outline category. Then, there were the titles of the scrolls that were sorted according to the first stroke. Basically, after seeing the categories and the titles, one could roughly guess what the contents of the scroll were. This time, Wang Sheng and the old Taoist had brought back 3,100 scrolls of various categories. There were secret martial arts manuals, pill recipes, formation diagrams, architectural structures, storybooks, music scores, and miscellaneous items. There were a lot of things in the miscellaneous section. There were 3 account books, 2 travel books, and other miscellaneous things. There were many things that Wang Sheng was interested in. In fact, if he had the time, Wang Sheng was willing to flip through every scroll. With his photographic memory and the modern intelligence gathering and analysis methods on Earth, it was entirely possible for him to discover something that others could not. Unfortunately, he did not have the time now. He could only come back and flip through them one by one when he had the time. Wang Sheng could only stay here for a day at most, so he could only choose the parts that he was most interested in. Secret martial arts manuals were what Wang Sheng was most interested in at the moment. Of course, he could not read all of them. He could only guess the specific content based on the names and the simple introductions at the back. The people in the Laojun Temple did a good job on this point. The person in charge of copying also wrote out the main content summary. This table of contents was already quite convenient. The cultivation techniques were basically divided into levels according to the old Taoist's own understanding. The highest level was the Taoist scripture, level 10, and the most basic Taoist breathing technique, level 1. According to these levels, the old Taoist had indicated the simple levels for those cultivation techniques. The harvest was not bad. There were 2 volumes of level 9 cultivation techniques and 8 volumes of level 8 cultivation techniques. There was no top-notch cultivation technique, but with the other miscellaneous levels, if he really wanted to study them, he could figure out the sequence of them. Obviously, Wang Sheng did not have the time to do so. Wang Sheng looked at them one by one. These names did not attract his special interest. Even if there were 1 or 2 that looked interesting, Wang Sheng would immediately lose interest when he took a closer look at the general introduction. Currently, the Taoist scripture that Wang Sheng was cultivating was a level 10 cultivation technique. It was definitely the purest, warmest, and most long-lasting cultivation technique in this world. In addition, Wang Sheng had already understood the method of weekday cycle. Those level 9 and level 8 cultivation techniques were basically not in Wang Sheng's eyes. There was no reason to throw the watermelon to pick up a sesame seed. One by one, Wang Sheng looked through all the cultivation techniques. Then, he shook his head and flipped to the next category, combat skills. There were also dozens of volumes in the combat technique section. Wang Sheng also looked through them one by one. At the same time, he compared them with the few combat techniques that he had mastered. However, Wang Sheng was not too interested in the dozens of types in front. To put it bluntly, the Laojun Temple might have been unlucky in the combat technique section and did not pick the strongest one. This cannot be helped. At that time, no one knew the specific good or bad conditions of the division. He could only try his luck. With an indifferent attitude, Wang Sheng turned to the next page. A familiar name appeared in front of Wang Sheng, causing Wang Sheng to be stunned. Military killing techniques? No way. Chapter 1026. When Wang Sheng first joined the Special Forces on Earth, he began to learn military combat techniques. At that time, Wang Sheng had a small anecdote that was still fresh in Wang Sheng's memory. When the instructor was about to teach everyone combat techniques, Wang Sheng even asked humorously, "Instructor, does this combat technique have a high and mighty name like the Bodhisattva of Jyotian Shidi?" Shakes his head, is afraid of the thunderbolt divine light, lightning palm. At that time, the instructor was dumbfounded by Wang Sheng's question and did not know whether to laugh or cry. If not for Wang Sheng's excellent performance in all aspects of training, he would have definitely taught Wang Sheng a profound lesson. However, on account that Wang Sheng was only asking for a name and had not reached that stage, he let Wang Sheng off lightly. No, there's no such high and mighty name. This was the instructor's answer. There should be one, right? Wang Sheng still did not give up and asked, is it called advanced military boxing? Let's call it the military killing technique. The instructor made the final decision and gave an official statement that couldn't be any more official. From then on, Wang Sheng and the others learned the orthodox military combat techniques. This name was also passed on to the girl in his dream when Wang Sheng were communicating in their dreams. He had even taught her the techniques. Seeing this name, Wang Sheng instantly associated it with the girl in his dream. In this soul world, military was never the name of a powerhouse. In fact, it was unknown whether there was even a military. Even the imperial court could only restrict the people in the capital by decree. Which family was the so-called military? Moreover, this was a scroll from 500 years ago. The power of the big families of the previous dynasty was even more terrifying. What was the military? Therefore, this military combat technique could only have been taught to the girl in his dream by Wang Sheng. Looking at the summary of the military combat technique by the old Taoist, who was in charge of organizing it, Wang Sheng became more certain. In the eyes of the old Taoist, this was a very vicious killing technique. It did not care about aesthetics or humanity. It was an extremely efficient killing technique used to kill people. It was also divided into two different methods, barehanded and dagger. When he saw this, Wang Sheng was completely sure that this was what he had taught the girl in his dreams. The so-called dagger was definitely a military knife. I want to take a look at this scroll. Wang Sheng pointed at the name of the military killing technique and said to the old Taoist. The old Taoist glanced at him and calmly called out to a certain corner, C17. Then he waited quietly. C17 was the serial number of the scroll on the table of contents. Wang Sheng had pointed out that it had a clear serial number and location, so it was very easy to find it. The Grand Abbey Dean was very curious. Wang Sheng looked at it for a long time and chose such a combat skill scroll, which made him very surprised. What kind of combat skill would make Wang Sheng so interested? After taking a look at the table of contents from Wang Sheng, he immediately understood. It's better to not kill people. The comment on the military killing technique was very vicious, which made the Grand Abbey Dean slightly unhappy. He was not disgusted, but as the leader of a Taoist sect, he felt that it was against the natural order. T. As soon as the Grand Abbey Dean finished speaking, the old Taoist Ling Su scolded, "You haven't killed people before?" "Of course I have, Patriarch." The Grand Abbey Dean smiled helplessly. As the Grand Abbey Dean, there were many people who did such things for him, but did not mean that he had not killed people when he was young. You have killed people yourself, so why do you care about others? The old Taoist glared at the Grand Abbey Dean and said, I just feel that even if you want to kill people, you don't have to use such vicious methods. The Grand Abbey Dean was helpless, but he had to express his opinion. T. Old Taoist Ling Su blurted out another T. He was the old ancestor with the highest seniority in the Grand Supreme Lord Temple, and he was not a secular elder like Wang Sheng. He was an old ancestor that was several ranks higher than the Grand Supreme Lord Temple in terms of seniority. Not to mention scolding him. Even if he were to slap him, the Grand Supreme Lord Temple would still have to accept it. One look, and I can tell that you haven't understood it. The old Taoist was not the kind of person who scolded without reason. After scolding, he still had to explain to the Grand Abbey Dean, you kill people with a sword, he kills people with a knife and a crossbow. It's all the same. What's the difference? The old Taoist had seen the military killing technique, but in his eyes, it was a low-level killing method that required close combat. The old Taoist did not like it. But when he saw the comments of the person in charge of copying, he only shook his head slightly. It was nothing more than an efficient killing method. How could it be more vicious than fighting and slashing someone dozens of times? The old Taoist was not a kind person. Back when he first met Wang Sheng, in order to demonstrate the essence of the Taiji fist he had learned to Wang Sheng, he had slammed a person into the wall with a single palm strike, turning the person into a meat painting. That scene of murder was many times more terrifying than killing someone with a single slash. When Wang Sheng heard the last sentence, a smile suddenly appeared on his face. At this moment, he thought of the words Zhang Wuji used to refute Abbess Miju's disciple in the Heaven Sword and Dragon Saber. He, Green-Winged Bat King, used his teeth to kill people, and your teacher used the Heaven Sword to kill people. What's the difference between good and evil? The old Taoist really understood it. Although the Grand Abbey Dean had already advanced to the 10th stage, it was obvious that he still could not see through some small details of his state of mind. Of course, this was related to his personality and environment. After all, he was the leader of Taoism and did not have that much murderous intent in his heart. A little Taoist boy had already brought over the scroll C-17. The old Taoist took it in his hand and waved his hand to let the little Taoist boy leave. Then he reached out and handed the scroll over. However, he did not hand it to Wang Sheng, but to the Grand Abbey Dean. The Grand Abbey Dean was stunned and quickly took it with both hands. He did not put on any airs, opened the scroll, and read it carefully. Just by reading the first part, he understood that it was just an efficient killing method. It was not vicious, but it killed someone with a single blow. To the victim, it was not painful at all. The old Taoist tone had already softened. He pointed out to the Grand Abbey Dean, it's not a bad thing to have good and evil in one's heart, but you have to judge others by your own good and evil. Your cultivation is not good enough. Thank you, Elder Ancestor, for your guidance. The Grand Abbey Dean naturally understood what the Elder Ancestor meant and quickly thanked him. At the same time, he immediately turned to Wang Sheng and apologized. However, before he could speak, Wang Sheng had already taken the initiative to express his gratitude. From the point of view, the Grand Abbey Dean did not mean any harm. On the contrary, he was considerate. This was something that Wang Sheng should thank. Sigh, you're only pleasing to the eye when you're drinking with us. The old Taoist let out another long sigh and said no more. The Grand Abbey Dean smiled awkwardly and handed the scroll to Wang Sheng. Then he obediently picked up his wine cup and clinked it with old Taoist Ling Su's. Chapter 10:27. Wang Sheng took the scroll and opened it. After a few glances, he was certain that the things written at the beginning were exactly what he had taught the girl in his dreams. The scroll was very thick and contained a lot of content. Of course, the military's killing techniques had techniques that targeted various body parts and postures. To be able to use words to describe them showed that the person who wrote the scroll was very talented. After reading the beginning, Wang Sheng rolled up the scroll and said to the old Taoist, "Give me a copy. I want to take it with me." The old Taoist priest raised his eyes and glanced at Wang Sheng. He said lazily, "Why are you still taking the copy? You could just take this scroll with you." All the scrolls were obtained by Wang Sheng from the Gan family and the Shi family. Neither the old Taoist nor the Grand Abbey Dean thought that it was a big deal for Wang Sheng to take the original scroll. So what if he took all of them? The Laojun Abbey Dean already had copies anyway. Then I won't stand on ceremony. Wang Sheng was straightforward. He put the scroll into his storage ring and continued to drink with the two. Wang Sheng flipped through the contents of the catalog as he drank. Basically, there was nothing that could tempt Wang Sheng. There were a few tempting names, but he immediately lost interest when he saw the abstract. After flipping to the end, Wang Sheng shook his head. He closed the catalog and pushed it away. Nothing else of interest? The old Taoist was surprised. Wang Sheng only found a combat technique after flipping for so long. Although Wang Sheng had said that he wanted some powerful offensive techniques, and this combat technique barely met the requirements, wasn't it too little? I'm not interested for now. Anyway, it's here. I'll come back to take a look whenever I want to, Wang Sheng said casually. The old Taoist and the Grand Abbey Dean smiled when they heard that. From what Wang Sheng said, it was clear that he really treated this place as his home. Trust and reassurance made them feel very comfortable. Old Taoist, there are 2 more concerts in the next 2 days. You should go and listen too. Wang Sheng invited the old Taoist. Grand Abbey Dean, you should go too. It's good for consolidating your cultivation. The two nodded. There was nothing to say. How could a great grandmaster's concert be heard so easily? Not to mention that Wang Sheng specially invited them. Even if Wang Sheng did not say it, they would still go. It would be best to bring someone who cultivates the scripture of the way. At the very least, it would be someone who cultivates this branch. It's best to bring those who cultivate the same Taoist scriptures. At the very least, it should be of this lineage. A great grandmaster's concert could allow people who cultivated the same cultivation technique to unconsciously share their cultivation experience. It was easy to understand and illustrated. Wang Sheng's knowledge of the military's killing techniques was far more complete than what was recorded on the scroll. After all, this was something that Wang Sheng had imparted to them. Even if it was written in ancient language, it would not be difficult for Wang Sheng. Not to mention that there were pictures attached, which made it even easier. Wang Sheng did not care about the content of these techniques. What he cared about was whether there was anything in this military killing technique that could let him know more about the girl in his dreams. When he left yesterday, Wang Sheng also told the old Taoist that if he found any descriptions of the military killing techniques in other scrolls, he should try his best to make a copy for Wang Sheng. After reading about 3/4 of the contents of the scroll, Wang Sheng had basically learned it before. Techniques for killing the enemy with bare hands, techniques for killing the enemy with a military knife. The more detailed records were those fighting in the most orthodox posture. Wang Sheng looked at it word by word, for fear of missing the slightest clue. When he finished reading the technique for killing the enemy with a reverse grip of a military knife, the contents of the scroll were slightly different when he looked at the next scroll. Previously, it was all about techniques, killing techniques that targeted the weak points of the body in one strike. However, the latter parts suddenly became techniques for using spiritual energy. Moreover, these techniques for using spiritual energy were all of the same origin as the military killing techniques. When he saw this, Wang Sheng's spirit was lifted. Then, he read it word by word more carefully. When he finished reading, he pondered for a long time. He sat on the spot for a long time before standing up. Wang Sheng was the only one in the training room. Wang Sheng began to practice each move according to the records on the military killing technique scroll. Wang Sheng was already very familiar with the moves. What he practiced was the method of using spiritual energy. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Every move was executed with vigor. After he finished practicing his bare hands, Wang Sheng's hand shook. A tiger's fang military knife appeared in his hand. Then, he continued to practice each move. You're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.